Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the September 9th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Go through the agenda here. We'll start with roll call tonight.
Here. Kimball.
Present.
Stephenson.
Here.
Howard.
Here.
Schreiber.
Yes.
Wilhelm.
Here.
And Kibbe Walton is excused tonight. Any ceremonies, announcements, appointments, or presentations tonight, Mr. Manley?
There's none.
Amendments to the agenda.
Just one clarification on public hearings, action item B, Echo Estates Annexation File ANNX 24-5. They withdrew their interest in their subdivision, so we continued with the annexation aspect of their request.
Okay. Sounds good.
So what that means, there was a question about what does that mean?
That's fine.
So what that means is, as the applicant, they are just looking for a zoning recommendation from you tonight as part of the annexation request. That'll go before city council at a later date to hear whatever the outcome is tonight from you guys. And then at a later date down the road, once they have more direction, then they would apply for a subdivision at that time, if it was approved. We don't know the outcome of where it's going to go.
Yeah. So there's still a hearing. We'll explain a little bit more, but there's still a hearing for them tonight. Okay. Yep. Any declaration of conflict, ex parte contacts, or site visits from commission members?
I have a conflict tonight on the consent calendar, so I'll recuse myself from that.
All right, sounds good. Anybody else?
Nope.
All right. Can we go over the consent calendar, please?
Yeah, we got action item A, which is the meeting minutes from the July 29th, 2025 commission meeting. We got action item B, which is the meeting minutes from the August 12th, 2025 commission meeting. Action item C is the Poleline and Zorros special use permit reason decision, file number SUP 25-3. Action item D is the River City Corners subdivision reason decision, file number SUBD 25-1. Action item E is the River City Corners special use permit reason decision, file number SUP 25-1. Action item F is G2 Development Annexation Zoning Recommendation, file number ANNX 25-2. Action item G is the G2 Development Annexation Reason Decision, file number SUBD 25-2. And action item H is the Painted Rock Subdivision Reason Decision, file number SUBD 25-3.
Any questions? Anybody like to make a motion on the consent calendar?
Yeah, I'll move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Okay, we have a motion
Second.
and a second. Roll call, please.
Stephenson.
Yes.
Schlotthauer.
Yes.
Schreiber.
Yes.
Wilhelm.
Yes.
Carey.
Yes.
Kimball.
Abstain.
All right. So moved. All right. Next item is citizen issues. This section is reserved for citizens wishing to address the commission on an item that is not on the agenda tonight. You will have 5 minutes to speak. Do we have anybody that would like to speak on something that's not on the agenda tonight? All right. Come on up.
I have a copy of this for you guys if you'd like it.
Sure, it's fine.
That's 2 pages
Yep.
per.
Just, name for the record, please.
Sarah Erickson. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm just going to read straight from this because I have public speaking anxiety. My name is Sarah Erickson. I'm here tonight to ask you to consider a small but meaningful change to the city code regarding backyard ducks. Yes, I said ducks. Right now, the code treats ducks as livestock and requires at least 1 acre of land to keep them. Chickens, however, are already permitted on any detached single-family lot with up to 10 hens. I believe ducks should be allowed under similar guidelines, and I'd like to share why. Ducks require very little space, 10 to 15 square feet per bird of outdoor run area. They are often quieter than chickens, especially male ducks, who often make little noise at all. Their waste is actually less of a nuisance. Unlike chickens, duck manure is cold compost that can be applied directly to gardens without aging. Ducks also provide natural pest controls, eating slugs, mosquitoes, and other bugs, which reduces the need for chemical pesticides in our neighborhoods. Another point I forgot to put in here is they have nutrient-rich eggs, so people who are allergic to chicken eggs can eat duck eggs sometimes, and they're healthier for you. Beyond practical benefits, ducks bring joy and are absolutely hilarious if you'd like to see my child duck videos later. They are gentle, social animals that provide companionship and emotional support, much like chickens already do for families across Post Falls. I also want to recognize concerns about neighbors and animal welfare. That's why I'm proposing clear limits. A minimum of 2 ducks, since they're flock animals, with a strong recommendation to start with 3 for their well-being in case one dies. A maximum of 5 ducks per household to keep flocks small and manageable. Families could either have 1 male with up to 4 females, or all males or all females. Housing and setback requirements would mirror those already in place for chickens. Duck pools would need to be kept clean to prevent odors and mosquito issues, same as any standing water on property. Ducks only need to be able to submerge their face. They don't really need a whole pond. The water from that kiddie pool that some people use is nutrient rich and, like I said, cold compost, so instantly usable. People are even doing duck ponics and watering their indoor plants with it because it does not smell like chicken manure does. In short, allowing a few backyard ducks under the same framework as chickens would give families flexibility, help educate children, protect neighbors, and ensure animal welfare while bringing environmental and personal benefits to our community. Thank you for considering this amendment to section 6.08.030.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else tonight? Okay. Any unfinished or old business?
There's none.
All right. We'll move into public hearings tonight. If you're wishing to speak, make sure you fill out the form in the back, bring that up front. And at that time, you'll have 4 minutes to speak. The timer is on the podium, so please pay attention to that. Also, as we're going through the staff report and the developer talking and public, please keep all your comments to yourself, and everyone, just give everybody the courtesy to be able to speak their mind. If you have to speak, come up here. There is no question and answer. After public testimony, the developer does have a time to come up and rebut any testimony and kind of can answer any of those questions. So if you do have questions, ask them, and then the developer will answer them after that fact. All right, with that, we'll open up the Harvest Meadow, just PUD.
Good evening, Commissioners. John Manley, Planning Manager, City of Post Falls. Introducing the Harvest Meadows PUD and Subdivision, case file PUD 25-2 and SU 25-4. The owner is Blackwell Homes and Development. The applicant is Merle Van Houten. The requested action for you tonight is to approve the proposed PUD on the 11.2 acres and the associated subdivision that they're proposing into 85 single-family residential lots at the 7.36 dwelling units per acre. Now, if you remember, this was brought to you recently in June. They had 92 lots. The applicant, from what I understand, and they can go into more details, took kind of your considerations and your concerns, and they proposed an amendment, and that's what we're here tonight, is kind of look at their revised plan based off your comments. Looking at the PUD, they do base everything off of the gross acres, so there I have highlighted there on where that's stated in the Post Falls Municipal Code. The property and the project location is, as you see here, in hatched red, sandwiched between Guy Road and Spokane Street, just to the west or southwest of the intersection of North Brookie Drive and Spokane Street. Brookie Drive is that one-way street that kind of serves those lots that are out there by the golf course. So the current land use, it's transitional. You can see some pre-existing single-family homes that were once there that they're intending to remove, but it is transitioning to some other future than what was there in the past. It is over the Rathrum and Prairie Aquifer. The water provider would be East Green Acres, and the City of Post Falls would provide sanitary sewer. Looking at the surrounding zoning in the city of Post Falls, you can see that to the north, east, and south, it's the single-family R1 zone. The golf course to the east is all zoned R1 with the golf course. To the west, you do see some large lot, undeveloped county egg property just to the west. So moving on to the PUD review criteria. So what I did here is as we stay on each criteria, I highlighted them in different colors, so we'll progress to different colors. But the first one is, does the proposed PUD provide for adequate utilities, services, and parking to service the proposed development? So regarding the public water supply system, there is a will serve letter associated with the subdivision in this project from East Green Acres Irrigation District. Sanitary sewer service is available, and there's capacity to serve this, and this deals with the next criteria. And is there accommodations for other utilities necessary to support the proposed development? And looking at Exhibit A3, which is the preliminary plan, they do show the corridors for utilities and easements along the private and public roadways and the alleyways within the project. The next one is, does the proposed project, is there sufficient parking to meet the needs of this PUD? And this is kind of the crux, I think, of the last one and where they've kind of revised this a bit. So our code requires a minimum of 2 off-street parking stalls for each residence. And in their narrative and in sheet C5, the applicant details 114 available on-street parking stalls and about 304 stalls per lot. Here is their plan where they show where the on-street parking will be, the type. And so where you have Ayrshire Lane, that is their private street, and they do have parking on the south side being proposed. Those would be the front-loaded product along there. To the north of the Ayrshire private lane, those are rear-loaded, so then that provides, the reason why that's purple is because that's a continuous parking that's not interfered by driveways. And so those would be continuous parking along those lots, as well as the open space, which I'll go into detail in a little bit. And then you have the other orange along the north, which those are more front-loaded, and so you'd end up having a driveway between lots and one parking stall typically between those. So the next criteria, does the proposed PUD provide for integrated transportation network and adequately serve the proposed development? Well, looking at the providing for continual arterial and collector streets meeting the standards, they're proposing Tennessee Avenue within first phase. That would connect the project to the southwest, another connection to Spokane Street, improving emergency service access to that area and improving circulation. Phase 2, that is planned to connect Guy Road out to the west. And then by staff reviewing this, they all look like there is sufficient capacity to handle the proposed development. Does the proposed network allow for adequate circulation and snow storage throughout the entire development? They do have some tracks, and I'll let the applicant go into and how they intend to meet the snow management of this project, but they do have a couple tracks and the open space. We do identify that there's going to be no parking on the proposed alleyways, and on the private street only has it on one side. Does the project provide for pedestrian bicycle systems designed to provide adequate circulation throughout the entire development? So you do see, and I'll show on this next slide here, let's see, I think it was in the previous one here. The project does have the plan for the open space and pedestrian connectivity out to Spokane Street. You do have, along the east side, you will have improvements that will improve the west side of Spokane Street. As far as, let's see, there's their open space they're intending to develop. Looking at the next criteria, does the proposed PUD provide enhanced community design by conserving and incorporating sites' significant natural, scenic, or historical features of development, if any? So this site does not have any, but it is along the park here, along the rail corridor, they would be required to have a 6-foot fence to kind of protect that corridor. Does the proposal integrate a mix of compatible land uses in the development and adequately buffer or separate any incompatible uses in development? Staff views this as they're proposing single-family development detached. They're next to other single-family detached units, albeit it is an R1 zone. They're proposing an R2 on smaller lots. From staff's perspective, they're not incompatible. And then looking at, are these proposed uses in the PUD blend in with the surrounding uses in neighborhoods? I cite here that they do have average lot sizes of about 3,400 square feet. The smallest lot is 2,800. They're only on 3 lots, the 82, 83, and 84, with the largest lot being about 6,200 square feet. Regarding the open space, PUDs are required to have 10% of their project be it open space. In their exhibit, in their application, they cited the net area. So what I did is I calculated out what they cite as their gross in their project as 11.57. 10% of their gross would be 50,000, about 5,400 square feet. They are greater than that, so they are slightly above what is required for the PUD, so they would meet that. And then the fourth criteria, does the proposed PUD provide for timely development of the property and security for future completion and maintenance? So, as stated, they do propose 3 phases, and each phases does independently stand on its own and would allow for continuation and continuity. The other one is ensuring that each building in the development lot has sufficient access to around the structures and allow for continual maintenance of the building and access for emergency services. So in regards to our setbacks on our individual lots, that does allow for access and maintenance of each structure, and we do see that within their combination between their public way and private ways, you'd have access to their residences. Ensuring that a funding mechanism exists to adequately maintain common areas that are not publicly maintained. We require an HOA to be established prior to platting, and that's typically how staff recommends and sees this as being facilitated. And then, are there any modifications and deviations? This is what is cited in the conditions right now for approval, if you guys deem so. And as far as memorializing, they're reducing the 4,000 square foot, which is typically in an R2 zone, to 2,800 square feet. The driveways, minimum of 16-foot wide driveways. This allows for the potential for 2 cars to park side by side. It has some standards for some rear loading. Has some standards for the 40-foot front loaded, the 40 feet. That's how you get to the 16 feet, because we require in code 40% of the frontage to be for driveway approach of their driveways. That's how you get from 40 to 16. So they tweaked their project a little bit, increased our lot sizes so they could get there. And then you can see the other ones at that point, some setback standards that they requested. Any questions for me on the PUD at this point?
On that sheet, their last sheet there, these are the things that that they don't meet?
These are the things that they're asking for, either that they don't meet, like in particular, like the 4,000 square foot. You know, that would be the typical R2 minimum lot size. So in order to get this layout in the form they are proposing, like the minimum being that 2,800 square foot on those.
How many of the lots don't meet it? What do you have for an average?
The average was
We had a slide earlier too.
3,377. The applicant may
On
know.
net lot sizes.
The applicant may know how many lots are under the 4,000 square feet.
Okay, and then on the, I remember last time one of our concerns was the setback, the front setback for driveway parking. What do they have versus the code?
They would, I don't think we're on that one there. The driveways are gonna have to be 20 feet long. So we wouldn't entertain anything any different anyways. We gotta make sure that
Garage to sidewalk,
the
20 feet?
garage face to sidewalk, as with any other lot in Post Falls, is 20 feet from either property line to face a garage or back a sidewalk to face a garage, whatever is closer.
and the building is 15.
Yes, you could take the structure, like if you had, you know, a living room or whatnot,
It's not
that
like a
can
perfect
be
box.
15 feet off, but
Sure.
Will you go back to the plat?
Mhm.
Visually, what is different on this than the one that we already seen?
other than there's 7 fewer lots.
Just some-
But it's very similar to the exhibit that was part of the annexation.
So the free space is still the same size?
No, it's a little bit smaller. They had to, if you look at the previous one, which I accidentally left on one of these slides, I noticed. Go back to it. So this right here, you can see how on the previous layout, they had a little bit more open space, but in order to deal with some of the concerns with the amount of parking. So before, I think they had a single driveway with a questionable whether they can get 2-car garages.
Right.
So there was concerns about that. So what they did, from what I understand, is they widened some of their lots, they widened their driveways, and I believe they plan on doing a 2-car garage product on some lots. And so that's how they were going to address it.
And move some of the open space to the other end of that private road.
So that's what led to a reconfiguration here. Because once you widen some lots up, you consume real estate. Okay, so I'll move on to the subdivision aspect of this. So here is their proposed layout, which you've seen. So is there provisions for water? We know there is, East Green Acres. The city's identified the second one, is there sewer, and there is capacity for the project. Proposed streets are consistent with the transportation element of the comprehensive plan. So we've already discussed how the roads will connect to Spokane and DeGuy Road and create circulation. Look at the fourth criteria. Is there any topographical conditions or that would present hazards? You know, it's over the aquifer, and there are no known hazards. The fifth one is a proposed subdivision zone for the proposed uses, and does it conform with the requirements found in the code? This will be solely subject to the PUD and being consistent with the PUD if it was approved. And the sixth criteria looks for the developer, does it has plans to ensure that the community would bear no more than its fair share of costs to provide services and paying fees and furnishing land, providing parks, mitigating its impacts to the community. This typically done through impact fees that are assessed at the time of building permits, and they deal with the things cited here: parks, fire, EMS, public safety, multimodal pathways, and streets. Here's the agencies that were notified. Here's the comments. Schools neutral. Fire, as usual, deals with, at the time of subdivision, our construction plans, making sure that everything's done at that time and as part of development. And Yellowstone Pipeline, Phillips 66, they didn't have any issues with the site, as they don't have any utilities in the vicinity. Any questions on the subdivision?
I got a quick question for you, John. This has more to do with the conditions of approval. Condition of approval number 11 says the homeowner association for the project shall be required to maintain the common area right-of-way frontage adjacent to the common right-of-way frontage adjacent to open space tracts along Guy Road south of Holstein Avenue, including all irrigation, landscaping, and snow removal from sidewalk and trails, but it doesn't talk about the private street. Is that an oversight? Should that, or is the city gonna be taking care of the private street?
No, the city's not, 'cause that would probably
Okay.
need to be included.
Because that should be included in there. Okay.
Correct.
And alleys as well, I'm assuming, same thing,
Yep.
right? Alleys and.
Yep.
So, okay. And it's probably more of a PUD question. But I'm gonna tag on a little bit to the HOA thing. I've mentioned it before in other public hearings about making sure that there's a sinking fund calculation done to make sure that a homeowner association is set up for success when it comes to maintenance of long-term infrastructure like streets. I personally live on a street that is maintained by my homeowners association, and we've spent the last 15 years trying to accumulate money for repaving because we were set up for failure to start with, and it did not work well. And it's very difficult to do that, especially in an entry-level subdivision. So maybe the applicant can speak to that a little bit. But is there a way that we can, or do you know of a way that we can make that a requirement to, or that staff can oversee a requirement to make sure that there's a sinking fund calculation in? Maybe I should be looking at Rob on this, to ensure that there's long-term maintenance provisions, funding for long-term maintenance, like road repaving, sealing, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, what you see is for the current condition, that's the typical process. I think it definitely is warrants staff to talk about that element, maybe in a little more detail, so that maybe that comes forward as maybe, as part of the staff report. But typically we have, you have brought those up to applicants and let the applicant see how they weigh in on that measure. But it definitely is something I think staff can talk more on.
Okay. And then the other thing, and I kind of understand that one of the reasons for the open space provision in the PUD ordinance is because in this case particularly, we're having a lot smaller lots, right? So we have modest homes on very small lots with very little yard. And the open space is for recreation essentially, right? For the neighborhood, that's kind of the trade-off, isn't it?
Either active or passive. There's
Active or passive?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Hopefully the applicant will speak towards some of the amenities.
All right.
Can I ask just a quick question about zoning?
Yeah.
So the staff report shows 11.2 acres. The applicant says it's 11.6 acres, so minor difference there. And I'll ask applicant same question. But if it's R2 zone and we have 11.2 acres, that's 122 units. When we're talking about reducing the minimum lot size to 2,800 square feet, we're not anywhere near the maximum density in the R2 zone. It seems like we're talking about reducing the minimum net lot size, like finished lot size? Is that what? Because the zone talks about the overall density of the project. When we get to the PUD level, now we're talking about the actual finished lot size, correct?
Well, I'll go back to the slide one. So you go through, we have,
I always find this confusing.
yeah, so typically you have the area of land before dedication. So you have the 11.57 acres gross, that includes right-of-way.
Okay.
So once they do their development, they're gonna have to grant right-of-way. So it'll be majority, like on Spokane Street, in order to get the multi-use trail along the east side of the project over here on this development, they'll grant some right-of-way along with the project that shrinks their project down to the subdivision aspect, or the PUD element will be, you'll be looking at the governing documents on the remaining net, but you base the open space on the gross.
Okay, so the open space is off the gross, but what about if the minimum lot size for R2 for a single family is 4,000 feet? They could actually, by right, get 122 units on there.
Simple math, potentially, but
I'm a simple person.
once you do got to subtract a certain percentage to your roadway. So on any
Okay.
project, you have gross land. Once you get our city streets and you get our connectivity and you get our swells and you get all that, you do lose the potential maximizing that
Okay.
that math effect. But theoretically, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I know I ask that question every time, but it's slowly sinking in.
Any other questions for staff? All right, invite the applicant up. Name for the record, please.
All right, good evening, Commissioners. My name is Merle Van Houten.
I'm here before you again to present Harvest Meadows Subdivision and PUD. You may remember this is an R2 single-family affordable housing development. John did a great job of covering the material. I'm going to let him speak to the overall attributes, and we're going to kind of try and focus in on how we got here from the beginning of annexation and what we've done since we last were before you in June. So this is an application made on behalf of Blackwell Homes. And this process started last winter with annexation request. So at that time, this property was zoned, was zoned ag suburban in the city, or in the county. We requested annexation into the city by looking at the future land use map and saw that it was low-density residential. The comprehensive plan says that that is all types of single-family residential uses up to 8 dwelling units per acre, and it allowed us to choose from these zoning districts for our projects. We decided to go with R2, but in doing so, we limited ourselves to 8 units per acre. So we came before you in an annexation hearing with an R2 layout that's on the screen now. The vision was to bring home prices below median values, home products that are at the median value or less, available for individual ownership, ability to work and reside in the same area, dedicated open space and neighborhood charm, as we're saying, so we can have places for children to play, and no multifamily housing. So we put this layout before you, we put this layout before you. The total was 85 lots, and it was really well received that night. We left with unanimous approval, saying that with that cap of 8 dwelling units per acre, we were granted the R2 zoning designation. So we want to be clear that we were never an R1 zoning designation. We requested R2. You gave us R2 with that caveat that we were limited to 8 dwelling units per acre. So we came back before you in June with a layout that had 92 lots. That happens to be 8 dwelling units per acre. And when you saw that actual subdivision design, we had moved away from the conceptual layout and into a real subdivision design. We heard that you were concerned with things like parking and traffic. And the findings, or the vote that night was 3-3, which resulted in denial. So what we found in the reasoned decision was the steps that the applicant can take to obtain approval. The commission remained concerned with the proposal's smaller lots coupled with minimal off-street parking, leading to narrow, crowded drive aisles, impeding connectivity and safety. The applicant is encouraged to revise its proposal and adequately meet the parking needs of all uses of the PUD and account for the space limitations opposed by the smaller, narrower lot sizes. So that is what you told us, and that is what we've tried to consider tonight and bring before you, a layout that remedies those concerns. So this is that layout. As John said, we've gone from 92 lots to 85. That allowed us to make some of these lots wider. Front-loaded lots have gone from 35 feet to 40 feet, which will allow us to put a 2-car garage and a 2-stall driveway on every front-loaded lot. We'll go into that a little bit later in a later slide. Rear-loaded lots, we can accommodate that same parking with the 35-foot wide lot. In doing so, we have decreased open space a little bit. We have also increased these snow storage and stormwater areas at either end of the private lane. And what that turns into density-wise, to kind of address what Mr. Schreiber was saying, is, if this was a full-on R2 development, we would be allowed 126 lots. Back at annexation, we said that's just not compatible with what the surrounding neighborhoods are. We understand that. We're going to offer up that limitation that we are going to be at no more than 8 units per acre. That would have given us 92 lots, and that's what we came to you with in June. We understand there was still some concerns with that, so now we're back with 85 lots. That's a density of 7.35 units per acre. And it's worth noting that an R1 density is 6.7 units per acre, or 77 lots. So here we are still trying to hold on to this affordable housing community. We're trying to fill the need that pretty much every report that's come out of the city in the last few years says there's a need for.
something that the mayor has signed a proclamation for. But we're getting, closer and closer to an R1 standard density. We're only 8 lots away from being at an R1 density. So with this layout, we're requesting the deviations down here in the lower left-hand corner. Reduction in minimum lot size from 4,000 square feet to 2,800 square feet. Vehicular access to lots of 45 feet wide or less may be front-loaded. Reduction in right-of-way width from 65 feet to 60 feet, and we'll go into that in a little more detail. And then setbacks for these side flanking streets that are technically, street side flanking, and 15 be reduced down to 5 because we're abutting stormwater and snow storage and not a road. So it is a 3-phase development. Phase 1 is in green, 23 lots with the open space at the south end. Phase 2 is yellow, lots across the north, and another chunk of open space. And finally, phase 3 is in orange, with the remainder of the lots plus those snow storage areas to support the private road. Open space is largely the same as before. We're providing a privacy fence and a nice landscape buffer from the railroad. We're providing pedestrian connectivity from Spokane Street into the development, and we're providing, wide open space playing area to offset the smaller yards. Okay, so this is a closer look at front-loaded lots on the left, rear-loaded lots on the right. Both of them have 16-foot wide garages. Both of them have 16-foot wide driveways. So conceivably, we can park 4 vehicles off-street. And in the last hearing, there was some talk about what people put in their garages and what people leave in their driveways and what that resultant parking would be. And I think this really puts that to rest. Now we don't need to worry about what people are putting in their garages because we exceed the zoning code. And we've listed out the zoning code here just to be clear. Down here in the lower left, I'm going to go through it really quick. Off-street parking requirement for single family is 2 for each unit. We have 4. Driveways to individual residences must be 20 feet in length. And again, we brought up that some cars are longer than 20 feet, but the city code is 20. We meet 20. The front yard and the side yard setback of the front garage is a minimum of 20 feet measured from front of the garage to the property line or the edge of the sidewalk to the structure. We meet that too. From sidewalk to the face of the garage is 20 feet. A single residential driveway approaches must not exceed 40% of the street frontage of the property served by such driveway approaches. So as John was saying, 40% of 40 feet is 16. We meet that as well. So we are doing, we are setting this up to demonstrate that we meet all parking requirements for the city. By comparison, here's another development going on in Post Falls. Single car garage, single wide driveway, but good for them. They meet parking standards. We heard that there was concern with this kind of a product in our development. We've taken that to heart. We've addressed it, and we're going to provide more than what you see here. So translating that into the overall subdivision layout, the green lots are front-loaded. The blue lots are rear-loaded. That means the orange lines are broken up by driveways, and the purple lines are unencumbered. They are just continuous on-street parking. The result is 114 on-street parking spaces and 340 off-street parking spaces. So the comparison from our June hearing to here to today is 92 lots versus 85. On-street parking has remained the same, 1.3 on-street parking stalls per lot. Off-street parking has gone from 2 per lot to 4 per lot. So total parking has gone from 3.3 cars per lot to 5.3 cars per lot. And let's keep in mind that probably most of the families that live here won't have 5 cars. So I think we're doing more than enough to satisfy the parking condition. There was also concern about, well, when all these cars park on this street, it's going to be too narrow to pass. And I think there was some confusion last time, so I've set up this slide to try and illustrate what's happening. The top is our proposed public road. The middle one is the existing Tennessee cross-section, and the bottom is the city standard. And I want to show you that all 3 of them are the same. And over here we see that it's a requirement of parking on both sides to have a paved width of 32 feet All three of these have 32 feet. There's no difference from what we're proposing to what's out there on Tennessee Avenue now to what the city says is the standard. We have 32 feet, we have a 10-foot swale, we have a 5-foot sidewalk. Physically, there is no difference between what we're doing and what's out there and what the city has deemed to be the requirement. What we're requesting is a reduction of 5 feet to the right-of-way width. That just brings the front property lines a little bit closer. It helps us with our building setback. But to help offset that, we're proposing a 15-foot sidewalk drainage and utility easement versus a standard of 10. So similarly, we have a couple of private areas where the road will only be parking on one side. We want to demonstrate that we are meeting city code. City code for a street width of parking on one side is 28 feet. We have 28 feet. Again, our parking complies with city code, our street widths comply with city code. Any further discussion needs to be more about changing city standards than it does this development. Housing type is 3 bedrooms, 2 to 2.5 baths, 2-car garage, 12 to 1,500 square feet. Smaller houses equal fewer cars, smaller yards equals less maintenance. So subdivision criteria, I think John did a good job of covering all that. I'll just say proposed streets are consistent with the transportation element of the comprehensive plan. Number 3, all the streets meet city standards. On-street and off-street parking exceeds city standards. Let's take a little bit more time to go through the PUD decision criteria. Number 1, the proposed PUD provides for adequate utilities, services, and parking to service the proposed development. As we've discussed, we have 114 for 85 lots of on-street parking and 4 off-street parking spots per lot. We have the provisions for water and sewer as well. Number 2, the proposed PUD provides for an integrated transportation network that adequately serves the proposed development. So the city has decided that Spokane Street has sufficient capacity to handle this development. The interior public and private roads conform to the city standards, and we're providing pathways and sidewalks that will tie the Spokane Street Trail to Tennessee Avenue and Guy. The proposed PUD provides enhanced community design. So again, this was celebrated during annexation as an excellent way to address the need for affordable housing. And then some concerns came up during the subdivision and PUD hearing in June. But we're still trying to achieve that R2 light affordable housing development. We have 10.6% open space and on-street parking similar to that of an R1 zone subdivision. The PUD provides for timely development of the property and security for future completion and maintenance. The project will be built in 3 phases. We will have that HOA established. KCFR has no conditions, and our setbacks are consistent with R2 development. So, I hope that's helped clarify and put to rest a few of the concerns that were voiced last time. But I'm here to stand for questions, and I thank you for your time.
Any questions?
Yes.
So you said the right-of-way was 10, and then you're moving it up to 15?
The easement. Let's go back to that one.
Okay.
Here we go. So you'll see on the bottom 2 cross sections, the right-of-way is 65 feet, and it has a 10-foot drainage and utility easement. What we're proposing is to take that 65 and change it to 60. That helps us with our building setbacks and bring a housing product that we want to achieve. But in return, we're expanding that standard 10-foot easement to 15 to make room for water meters, dry utilities, things like that.
That goes in 10 feet anyway.
We're giving it, well, so the side, okay. If you see the top one, 60-foot right-of-way puts the property line in the sidewalk. We're eating up 2 feet of that 10. We're choking it essentially. Okay. If we leave it at 10, we don't want to choke it. We want to give room for utilities. So we've obligated ourselves to 15, 5 more than the standard.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, you have 12.5 feet of usable space instead of the normal 10.
Exactly.
Yeah. But it shifts the setback a little bit closer to the front property line, giving you guys a little bit more building envelope.
Absolutely.
Okay.
absolutely correct.
But it, but it shortens up the envelope from the sidewalk to the front of the house, or it does not?
Let's go back to that slide. So here you can see on the front loaded lot, that property line is running through the sidewalk. So when we do our 15-foot, front setback, that brings the front of the house here. However, we have that other, part of the code that says we need 20 feet from sidewalk to garage. So the garages would be offset 20 feet, from the sidewalk. The houses would be offset 15 feet from the property line. Okay.
And the first time this came before us, how many houses were approved?
We proposed 92 the first time. So again, let's look at that. You accepted us into the city as R2. We limited ourselves to 8 units per acre, which was 92. But when we brought it before you in June at 92 acres, there were still some concerns. We've worked to address those concerns. So now we're at 85, which just happens to be the number of lots that we brought before you at annexation here and here. So what you saw that night, even though we were requesting 8 units per acre, we had 85 lots on the screen, and we just happened to be back at 85 now.
We're right back where we started from?
Well, we're here tonight to request the subdivision and PUD hearing, so we're trying to cross another milestone, but yeah, we're at the same lot count.
Mr. Van Houten, really
Yes.
quick. And forgive me because I was in the audience in June. With regards to the open space, I mean, obviously the lots are small,
Yeah.
and the house is a significant part of the footprint.
Mm-hmm.
And as you said, small yard, small maintenance, right? But also, it's important in a neighborhood to have places for children to play. And in a traditional R1 subdivision, the backyard is a great spot for a little play structure, right? And there isn't really much room in these lots for that, especially on the rear loaded lots. So it's been, I know PDs are a kind of a give and take thing, right? So you have to provide open space. That open space is supposed to be there for recreation for the residents, et cetera. You think it'd be appropriate for there to provide a play structure in the open space so that kids aren't playing in the street?
I don't know. As a father, I don't know how you keep kids from playing in the street, but I can discuss that with the applicant. Maybe talk about it during rebuttal.
Okay.
Okay.
And then are you familiar with sinking fund calculation? I'm sure you probably are.
I mean, I'm
Essentially, basically, it's a mechanism to ensure that a long-term maintenance so you do a future value calculation to ensure that long-term maintenance for private streets and alleys, so repaving essentially, is baked into the homeowner association dues, and that a fund is set up inside the homeowner association and in the CCNRs so that everyone's on notice. Because especially for entry-level subdivisions, everyone needs to know that, hey, there's a bill coming due in 25 years when that road needs to be repaved, and it can come as a shock. And I know city staff has seen requests from several PUDs that are 25 or 30 years old, asking for the city to take over their private streets that are falling apart.
Right.
And that's a problem, especially in entry level. So setting it up to succeed in the first place is incredibly important.
So are you asking that be a condition of approval?
I would, that would definitely be a condition of approval. just to ensure that there's,
I would ask, can we do that?
What we've done in the past is we've said that they need to have a funding mechanism.
right,
We didn't go into the details of whether it's a sinking fund or how it's calculated or anything like that.
right.
Okay.
Well, an HOA due of $50 a month sounds good day one, but then in 25 years, it doesn't sound good. And so advertising up front what the cost really is, I think, is what we're talking about here.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah, and commissioners, we've talked about this a little bit before, as to, we have to make sure that it's roughly proportional to the city's imposing what it is on the city to offset those costs. I mean, what we're talking about is a sinking fund or requiring an HOA to have some mechanism that we talked about before, force from the city's perspective. What they put in their CC&Rs is a private contract we can have as a condition, but what is the line? Is it proportional to the government's interest in this subdivision? Is it offsetting potential future costs of the city residents taking over these streets or the maintenance if
Yes.
the HOA goes defunct? And so if you have that finding and you can make that nexus, then, I mean, I think it's something that can be a condition.
Well, it's inevitable that it'll happen in 25 years if there isn't enough money in the dues.
Nothing's inevitable, but I understand.
Okay, yes,
So it's in 3 phases.
correct.
When do the open spaces get done?
Okay, excellent question. So, this open space that's between Tennessee and Spokane would be complete in phase 1. The other open space on the opposite side of Tennessee would be completed in phase 2. I do believe there was some discussion about this at the last hearing, and that we were willing to condition ourselves on that as well, just to provide that assurance, but that is the plan. And I was going to go back to one of Ray's comments, if that answers your question. So about the open space, I did recall, as you know, early on in the conceptualization of this project, we did discuss like some more, I don't know what I want to say, just some more amenities in the open space that drove a higher price point. And you know, the conversation ultimately, the decision ultimately was, oh, this is you know, this is an affordable housing community, so how much do we really want to obligate them to pay for? So, you know, so a play structure, maybe, you know, if that becomes an important piece, but yeah, that we did kind of try and keep the open space simple to keep the obligations light, you know.
I understand. It's, I mean, the math is what, $20,000, $25,000 play structure divided by 80 lots, a couple $100 a lot. Probably not going to be the breaking point,
Right.
but, you know, more likely probably a sales point.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll talk to the applicant about it and get back to you during rebuttal.
Did you get your HOA question
I did.
answered? Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Public testimony?
Can I ask John a quick question here?
Shoot.
Hey, John, I'm just, you know, I'm also struggling with why this huge difference between units per acre, which it sounds, you know, which sounds very reasonable at 8, but then we're so far off on the minimum lot size. Is it because, and so these are 2 different ways of controlling density and the footprint that people have for their home. Is it because there's so many streets on this particular lot and it's such a weird shape? Is that why?
Streets and open
Is that why we
space.
have such small lots but still meet the 8 lots per acre?
Well, I do know that from discussions early on, the eastern portion of, it was two parts of the annexation, but the eastern portion of this is in a little awkward shape, so it did, getting Tennessee over to Spokane did create some geometric difficulties that we did kind of, that the applicant mulled over. And then, you know, they did talk about different options of getting the road back to a Guy Road. So I think it does play a role. I mean, roads do consume, like I said, as part of my staff report, land, and you do end up with remnant portions that you divide out into lot sizing. Do I believe, like, I think there's a lot of different options you can do in R2. I mean, you can do 6,000 square foot lots in R2. I mean, you can do 8,000 square foot lots in R2. You can also do 4,000. So a lot of it is up to the applicant to look at the land that they have and decide what kind of path they want to go forward. We heard them tonight say they wanted to go to more of an attainable housing slant to their proposal. So in being so, a lot of times when you go that direction, that does naturally reduce lot sizes as you try to bring down that purchase cost.
Sure, sure. Yeah, it doesn't really make sense that they're so, they so far exceed the 8 lots per acre, but yet the lot size has to be so much smaller than the minimum. It's like there's a miss in the code, or it's just because there's so many on-site streets for this property.
It's the streets, but it's also the open space. There's a breakdown on the subdivision plan that shows that the net residential area is 8.6 acres. After you take out the streets, all the streets, and the open common areas.
Uh-huh. Is how much?
My eyes aren't that good, 8.59?
So that would be 64. That would make more sense.
Well, and then the R2 does allow, I mean, it does entertain density closer to, I'd have to do the math, 12 or 14 dwelling units per acre. I mean, so there are product in the R2, whether it's attached townhome product or there's more dense product that would make sense. So in this configuration though, and they weren't trying to do townhomes to increase density above 10, 12, as part of a PUD request, because we do have standards, you got to stay within a certain percentage for a PUD. You got to be consistent with the underlying zone. And so they're on the lower end of an R2, otherwise it would be an R1 PUD that they could request.
Thanks.
So zooming in, it's 11.6 acres gross. Minus streets, minus common area, you did get down to just the lots is 6.6 acres. They end up losing 5 acres to common areas, streets.
Yeah, I think that's where all the properties, that's why the lots are so small.
So you're not really bound, so the question is more for a knowledge type question.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly. Thank you.
All right. The first one here did not have a title. Brian McConnellan? Was this comment? Okay. We thought so, just based on the comment here. Not wishing to speak in favor. In favor, this is a valuable addition to the community of Post Falls. Not wishing to speak in favor, I'm sorry, I can't. Damon. There was no comment, but they're in favor. Not wishing to speak in favor, Gavin Jacobson. Harvest Meadows is a piece of property with an opportunity to provide housing at an affordable price. Let's see, highest and best use would be used as part of the city of Post Falls as its surrounding area already. Not wishing to speak in favor, Taylor Harlan. No comments, just in favor. Not wishing to speak in favor, Alexandria Cook. No comments, just in favor. Not wishing to speak in favor, Hannah Hunter, in favor. This is an amazing option for dozens of my friends and family. I have many acquaintances paying the same cost in rent that they could be paying to own a house. Being a young person in this town has become impossible. This would help. Not wishing to speak in favor, Colton Blizzard. Post Falls needs more affordable housing and more housing and more affordable housing as well. The builder is born and raised in Post Falls, native that cares about the community and the people in the community. Not wishing to speak in favor, Seth Wiley. No comments, just in favor. Not wishing to speak in favor, Brandon Rio, sorry if I mispronounced that. No comments, but in favor. Not wishing to speak in favor, Katie Barnett. No comments, just in favor. Wishing to speak yes in opposition, Deborah Thomas. Name for the record. You have 4 minutes, and we'll set the timer up there for you.
Deborah Thomas at 384 West Blanton Avenue, Post Falls. Summarizing prior meetings, I and surrounding homeowners raised many objections, but we lost the rezoning issue for Elfers annexation, the 5 acres on the west side of the proposed PUD, as well as the Steckman annexation to the east. Both were approved separately. The city approved going from low density indicated on the comprehensive plan that would mean a minimum lot size of 6,500 square feet to R2 light, as they called it, allowing medium density with a minimum 4,000 square foot lot size, ignoring the required compatibility and density cohesion considerations. No adjacent subdivisions to this proposed PUD are compatible to such small lots and density. A condition for R2 light was also approved, allowing a maximum 8 detached single-family homes per acre. This would create a maximum of 40 homes on Elfers 5 acres. The developer then came back with a proposed PUD to the Planning Committee, combining both annexations with minimum lot size of 2,649 square feet, and where 81 out of 92 proposed lots were below the approved 4,000 square foot minimum. That was defeated. We are now being presented with a PUD where the developer wants to again combine both annex properties and get a variance in order to have lots as small as 2,800 square feet. This is a 30% reduction from the 4,000 square foot minimum the city approved. In addition, it appears the developer wants to now have 46 or more homes on the Elfers 5 acres instead of a maximum of 40. The overall reduction from 92 to 85 proposed lots with single-family homes is appreciated. However, 72 out of 85 have lots under 4,000 square feet. This development should still be held to 4,000 square foot minimum lots, with a maximum 40 detached single-family homes on the Elfers portion. The PUD overview zoning information states a maximum 35-foot height. I do not know how that equates to the number of stories that would be allowed, but we were always shown the homes to be 2-story, and that should remain the maximum, not 2.5 or more, to try and help with some sense of privacy for existing homes surrounding this development. As currently proposed, Lot 81 is adjacent to my property with the side of the house running parallel to my fence. The setback on the south side of this lot is now showing 10 feet from my fence. The owner, through Merle, made this change and agreed to this at the prior meeting. It is appreciated as it now matches all other homes to the east of this lot. However, the current PUD overview zoning info states the side setbacks are 5 feet. It needs to state in writing that Lot 81 has a side setback of 10 feet from our fence on the south side. Merle had also previously stated to me that the owner had agreed to remove a very large cottonwood tree that is partially on my property. He also stated this in the last public meeting. The total tree removal needs to be stated in writing, as my last conversation with Merle seemed to put this in question. My tree expert, who is a certified arborist, Devin at Grace Tree Service, highly recommends this tree be removed before any development occurs. This should occur as soon as possible while the Elfers land is still in essence vacant. The tree removal needs to include stump killing, which also kills the roots, and then stump grinding to complete the process. This is important because the stumps and roots left from the prior cottonwood tree removal on the Elfers section of the proposed PRD are now growing branches around the rotted centers and from the roots, creating massive bushes. Complete removal is necessary so there is no longer any joint ownership or issues to create new problems. I have information from Mike Terry of Green Tree Spray Service, who can perform the stump kill and kill the roots before stump grinding, and I'm willing to pay for this treatment. Once all of this work is completed, I will buy and donate a new tree the developer can then plant on his property in the new soil near the location of this cottonwood. The new tree can then grow and adapt to the new environment. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Wishing to speak in favor, Michael Wendland. Name for the record, you have 4 minutes.
Michael Wendland, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, builder, realtor, developer. I'm here. I'm past president of Association of Realtors, past president for the Builders. Worked on multiple committees for housing urban development throughout the entire state of Idaho. I work with ITD, all the highway districts, and I've even worked with you guys in Smart Code before. Reason I'm here today is I support Ben. Ben has went above and beyond, as you've seen. He's met multiple exceptions that you guys asked for in your last hearing. His green space exceeds what is required, what's needed. His street design exceeds what's required and what's needed. He exceeds the number of parking units. He is nowhere near the density level that he can be. If this project doesn't work for him, it could work for some other developer out of Seattle, and they can run this thing up to 100 units out there and they can get it approved. He's not looking for that. Ben's from Post Falls. Ben's here to make Post Falls better. He's here to provide housing for entry-level buyers, and that's why he's doing this project. Before I run out of time, I just want to say that he has met and exceed all code requirements, and really he should receive approval on this project. I want to touch base real quick on the land itself. So we talk about R1, we talk about R2, we talk about location and what's around it. Obviously, we're in real estate. The best thing is location. This isn't a great property. He's got a railroad track on the south of him. He's got railroad tracks to the north of him. He's got 3 of the busiest streets in Post Falls that surround him. He's got nasty smelling water coming from the west. He is improving the city by developing this property into lots that can be bought and be owned by entry-level buyers, people that go to K-Tech, people that go to NIC, people that work here, people that live here, that will have homeownership and desire to maintain their property and keep a nice neighborhood. Again, I believe the applicant meets and exceeds all code requirements as we've seen today, and this should be an approval. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Wishing to speak in favor, Kristen Troutman. Okay. Name for the record.
Hi, my name is Christian Troutman. In regards to the Harvest Meadow Estates proposal, I am for it because it would be nice to have affordable, new construction, family-friendly homes. I wish my fiance and I had this opportunity a few years ago. When we purchased our home in Post Falls, we bought a 30-year-old home and it doesn't come with any of the offerings that this place does. It would also be easier to purchase and get a loan for a new home compared to an old one. This is a great option. I have a lot of friends and family that could definitely benefit from this development. Thank you.
Thank you. Wishing to speak in favor, Sean Salmon.
Hi, I'm Sean Salmon. I'm born and raised in this area, my wife as well, and something that we just did is we were part of the Britain crew who just moved in off of Greens Ferry, and so this is something that definitely is close to our hearts just because for growing up here, I always wanted to live here. Couldn't raise my kids here because it was too expensive, and I hold a really nice job. My wife does too, and when the median home price in the area is over $500,000 for a lot of houses to fit a family of 4, or the kids have to share a room, it's very, very hard. So seeing that they're trying to put more houses in this area that people can afford, specifically locals, is a huge win because I've seen my friends move out of the area. It really, really hurts to watch them go. And so that seeing that they're trying to make it an option so that these families or even people that want to live here, because Post Falls is an amazing place to be, being born and raised here. I love the school district. I love the people that are from here, my family. I'm over 100 years. On my mom's side of the family here, we all want to stay, and so I tell my customers in banking that if I wasn't from here, I'd want to show up, but I can't afford to work here with the wages that this area provides. So with what they're doing here, it makes it affordable, it makes it tangible, and makes it families the ability to actually be in a spot that gives them the ability to actually reach those goals, which is really awesome. So yeah, so I appreciate your guys' time.
Thank you. Wishing to speak in favor, Garrett Kretz.
Good afternoon, evening. My name's Garrett Kreitz. I'm a resident of, just like Sean, of the Miracle on Britain development here in Post Falls. I'm here to voice my support for Harvest Meadows. I understand or I was led to understand that some of them would be, I didn't realize all of them would be affordable, but that they would be set aside for essentially people like me, my family, and my neighbors. Lower middle to middle class working families that want to raise their families here. But their journeys are tough ones like ours was. My wife and I were in pretty good condition to buy a home back in 2020, and then the world shut down, and somehow in a shutdown world, America found Idaho. Prices skyrocketed, supply crashed, local people lost the ability to buy. We ultimately were forced to rent, pay someone else's mortgage, give someone else wealth that we could have used to grow our lives. We could have given ourselves our home. We've heard the numbers, heard firsthand the troubles, seen them in the news, but this subdivision and its dedication to follow my neighborhood gives these families something that they haven't had in a long time, if at all, and that's hope. Hope that they can finally afford something that has been to us every step of the way, the American dream. While it has changed over time from the 2 children, a dog, and a white picket fence to something simpler, it's still a dream. One that you can help realize for families like mine. So I urge you to approve this for the residents of Kootenai County, keeping our workers here. Thank you.
Thank you. Wishing to speak in favor, Maggie Lyons.
Maggie Lyons, for the record. I serve as the executive director for Panhandle Affordable Housing Alliance and the Project Britain that you've heard from 2 of our buyers already. 9 months ago, we broke ground. We now have 10 families in their homes, with 5 more in by the end of this year. All 28 homes will be owner-occupied by next summer. Let me tell you who they are. You've heard from 2. But in our most recent round, we had a firefighter and his wife, a graphic designer, and their baby. We had a police officer and his wife, an office receptionist for an OBGYN office, and their baby. We have, who you just heard from, Sean. They have 2 grade schoolers now enrolled in Greens Ferry Elementary. These are the people who serve our community. They want to stay here. They want to raise their families here. They love this community. And over 82% of the applicants that have applied for all the Britton homes, we have over 350 applications, were born and raised in Kootenai County. What we have learned is very clear. The demand is enormous by our local workers, and there is virtually no inventory available for them. The need is unmet, and yet before you tonight is an application for a neighborhood dedicated to meeting this need. In large measure, this need can be met because of the greater density. That's what we have in Britain. But in order to do this, it takes partnership. It takes cities governing for all. It takes builders like Ben Steckman willing to step up and realize what is needed and support the lower priced starter homes. And then on the side, I'm going to clarify this a little bit. PAHA, when these homes are deed restricted, so it ensures long-term preservation of these homes for local workers, PAHA is that third angle of the triangle to manage those homes to keep them forever affordable. I can tell you this is not easy work. Most developer builders are not interested in doing this, but Ben is, and you've already heard how he was raised here and how he's committed to this community. He is committed to selling these at lower than median home prices, and in addition to that, he has agreed to dedicate 10% to even lower prices so that we can reach our lower wage earners. I have not had very many developers step up willing to do this. 70% of our residents want home ownership. Britain is scalable, it's repeatable, and it is being built for the long term so that we can get more developers doing exactly what Ben is proposing tonight. This is how we keep families here. This is how we build a livable future. And thanks to Ben, and I believe the city of Post Falls, because you're already a great partner with us in Britain, that this can be done. And going forward, we'll see more and more homes restored or restoring the American dream of homeownership. So thank you.
Thank you. Wishing to speak in opposition, Chad Gabbert.
Hello, my name is Chad. I'm a homeowner. I live off of Nike Court. I oppose this for a couple reasons. It's my neighborhood. But I did some research on your guys' goals and your comprehensive plan that you guys have set up. Goal G14 and policy 1 and 2 of the city comprehensive plan stress that the importance of maintaining community comprehension and ensuring developing are compatible and well designed. Basically designing what's neighborhoods are like R1. So you guys, the city council approved an R2, which I understand, it got approved. R2 minimum design is 4,000 square feet. They're trying to go a lot less than that. I believe that we should stick to a 4,000 square foot lot to maintain an R2 development. Also, traffic plans, patterns, I understand and discuss and how these developments might affect existing and future traffic patterns, especially on Spokane Street. I don't know if they're gonna widen Spokane Street and put a turn lane in after the railroad tracks. That could be a major concern on people turning into that neighborhood. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Wishing to speak in opposition, Ren Ferguson.
Yeah, Ren Fugelson speaking, and this is the 4th meeting I've been to here, and I've opposed it from the very first meeting. And I tell you, getting it down to an R2 was the first mistake. It's just plain wrong, terribly wrong, and now it's getting worse every time you look up on the board. And now, one question I have: what are the prices of these affordable homes? Do we know what the prices are going to be for what you consider affordable?
The applicant may be able to speak to that during his rebuttal.
What's that?
The applicant may be able to speak to that during his rebuttal. So we don't know, but the applicant can probably speak to that.
Okay, you look at affordable, from numbers I had heard, it's not that much difference anyway. But, and the last time, talking about R2 and the numbers, now you're working towards the minimum size, you know, and it talks about attractive addition to the area. A matter of opinion, I guess. It's farthest, to me, the farthest thing from attractive. And you're talking about solving parking and traffic. You're off base. There's going to be so much traffic. There's going to be a lot of problems. And So it would be interesting knowing, how much everyone considers affordable. But anyway, in those tight lots, do we have the number of feet from the home to the fence? The existing fences there? Is that 10 feet?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. The applicant can speak to that.
Okay. Are we looking at 10 feet?
They'll be up here.
He'll be up here after. He can do rebuttal after all the public testimony.
Okay, yeah. And just looking at that and the homes, the families, and I would just look at it as quality of life for a family in a tight little area. Anyway, I think it's terribly wrong what is taking place, and I think, I think the number of lots should be addressed. I'd like to have it closer to 23 than 85. I'll leave you with that.
Thank you. All right, not wishing to speak, but in favor, I'm going to butcher this name. Is it Shar? I'm sorry. You want to try?
Prajapati.
There you go.
Swar Prajapati.
In favor and no comments. Thank you. Not wishing to speak in favor, Holly Lamb, no comments, just in favor. Wishing to speak yes, in opposition, Karen Olson.
Hello, Commissioners. I'm Karen Olson. And I am nervous, and I'll tell you what, my head had just spinning. I had something kind of prepared, but first off, I'm going to say I'm a simple person, too. I'm not a real estate developer. I'm not an engineer. I'm not anything like that. I do still work, and I live on Guy Road. I've driven by the Britton development, and it was commented on earlier that I think there's 28 homes there. And when I drove through there, and it's not through being completed, but that community there looks like the community I live in now. What's being proposed is not. So that being said, and it's beautiful over there, if we could do that here, I think I'd be in favor of it. I'm here to ask the commissioners to deny this request. And when I said I'm a simple person, I've never seen the PUD used in any of the paperwork. I have heard the word compatible. It's used in the language on the city's website. It's used by the personnel in the office when I go in and ask my questions. That word is used constantly, compatible. I am assured that this is the touchstone for the assessment of the developer's requests and for the decision-making process for our community. My home is in R1. My neighbors are in R1. At the beginning, we were shown that across the railroad tracks and all the communities around, it's in R1, and the developer asked for and received R2. Not everyone was happy with that, but we're accepting it, and I just don't believe that the project is abiding by what the city has decided. And in the PUD, it says that a PUD may contain a mix of residential, commercial, and industrial uses, so long as the proposed areas. Anyway, yada, yada. And again, this isn't my bailiwick. I'm not understanding all of this. All I know, to me anyway, is that if it's designated to be able to do all these things, even though the word may is used, I'm believing that it will absolutely, all of that could very well happen. And I didn't move there and choose to live where I live on Guy Road to have commercial or industrial buildings. Now, I don't see that on the project, but this is not my first meeting, but everything keeps changing, and it, forgive the analogy, I kind of feel like when the kiddos keep coming asking for a cookie, and I give one, and I give one, and they keep at me and badgering until finally either one, I put my foot down, or I cave. And I'm just asking, when is enough enough? If it can look like Britain, that would be awesome, but it doesn't. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any more? All right. Sounds good. Invite the applicant back up for rebuttal.
Okay, thank you. So no, it was great to have so many people in support tonight. You heard from a lot of people who would benefit or have benefited from a development like this. So just like the studies the city has issued in the proclamation the mayor has said, that there is a serious need for affordable housing developments. But I'm going to go through some of the comments I heard from the opposition, address those. So this piece of land was never required to be a 6,500 square foot lot development. You know, again, we started off with this process here with the future land use map. The comprehensive plan says up to 8 dwelling units per acre, all types of single family multi-residential uses, and these are the zones that can accommodate that. So was it ever set up to be a 6,500 square foot lot development? No, it wasn't. Nor were we, obligated to a certain lot number. This is what we're working through now, is what the subdivision should look like. So there was also talk about density on the Steckman piece versus the Alford piece. When this was first brought as annexation, there were 2 separate applicants. Now there's 1. So that's why we're looking at this as a single project. What's happening on one versus the other is irrelevant because it's all one single application. There was never any obligation to build single story. I don't know what was promised, but that was certainly not from us. We have discussed tree removals and setbacks in the past, and if that's the part that gets us approved, then we can accommodate that. So there was also talk about the Spokane Street being widened. That will happen. It will be widened to the city standard. We are working with the engineering department to do the proper configuration and striping of the road from the northern boundary through the railroad crossing. So it will meet city standards and receive approval from the engineering department. However, there was discussion about these lots being required to be 4,000 square foot minimum. So when we go back to that, we're going to look at a project that's a standard R2 subdivision. If we're going to put forth an R2 4,000 square foot lot, then there's no need to provide, no requirement to provide open space. We're providing a standard R2 subdivision, not a PUD. With the PUD, we're requesting smaller lots to bring the price points of those lots down. But in return, we're providing open space. So, this talk about, sticking to a standard R2 subdivision, I think we should explore that, because that, let's say we get denial tonight, that might be what we come back with next. Is, we've heard that you don't want this PUD type product. We've heard that we're going to develop this as an R2 subdivision because that's what we have, as our zoning designation. We come back with 4,000 square foot lots. Our maximum density would be 8 units per acre, and we have no requirement to provide any kind of open space. These are 4,000 square foot lots that don't have that luxury or that benefit. And unfortunately, the people who are relying on the price point that these smaller lots achieve are now out in the cold. So it really accomplishes nothing. I feel like what we're proposing here, provides a lot more. We have these granted smaller lots, but a more achievable price point. And they have the benefit of some open space that's right down the block where they can, have the benefit of running and playing. And because going from a 2,800 square foot lot to a 4,000 square foot lot does not provide you a lot of extra yard space. So let me go through my notes. There was a question Mr. Fugelson was asking about lot depth. We tried to answer it, but I missed what he was saying. But anyway, he was also asking about prices. The median home price in Kootenai County is about $550,000 right now. I talked with the developer. He's targeting somewhere more around a median value of like $425,000, so well below the median price, regardless of what that actual number comes out to be. Also heard that this is not like Britain, but we did not really hear any specific ways that this is not like Britain. And I also know that Maggie Lyons had to raise an additional $1.1 million to help bring those price points down, to make them achievable. So, Miracle in Britain had some special conditions of its own, and we are, propping it up as a great example of what can be done. And we'd like to implement a lot of the ideas that we saw there, but I don't know specifically how we're not like Britain. Single family, she was also concerned about the mixed use. Let me flip back to that. Where are we? During annexation, we were conditioned not only to 8 dwelling units per acre, but detached single-family residences only. And, that's what we're proposing tonight. There won't ever be any twin homes, any duplexes, any townhomes. Single-family residences only. We agreed to that during annexation and continue to stand by it. What else? Let's see. As far as Mr. Schlotauer made a comment about the small lots, and I think I kind of discussed how, if we go to that, standard R2 4,000 square foot size, then we're raising the price point, and we're not fulfilling all of our objectives. So that is another reason, for the product that we're presenting tonight. The play structure, while it's not in this proposal, if that becomes the hanging point of this project, then I'm sure we would agree to a play structure. So are there any other points that you heard that I could address for you, or any other questions that you've had?
I have a question for you.
Sure.
So the primary concern, I think, is the yard space that these families are going to have.
Okay.
And the trade-off for the yard space is, in this 30% or so reduction in lot size. It's going to be yard space. What do you think the lot cost decrease is by increasing your density?
I would have
I don't like speaking relatively because it's kind of misleading, I think, for folks. So if we had a dollar amount, if it's a $425,000 house, getting this increased density, how much has that decreased the price of the product by having the smaller lot? Is it 5,000? Is it 10? Is it 15?
And maybe we have some real estate professionals in the audience who might be able to address that. I couldn't. I'm an engineer.
I'm a realtor, and I don't know.
So, yeah.
Well, I think you probably have in the neighborhood of a $50,000 lot cost. So if you increased your density by 30%, maybe you've saved $15,000, and so maybe these houses cost $15,000 less. I think that's reasonable.
And I mean, I don't know. I can't say one way or another, but I would say that that also comes with the loss of the open space that we're providing. So, is there does that? Well, it seems to me that there's a bigger benefit by having this open space. It's a benefit for everyone versus the 4,000 square foot lot.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Close out the hearing and look at the,
Are we gonna have discussion?
that's what we're gonna do now.
Okay. Besides, okay.
We can have discussion.
All right, good afternoon, Commissioners. What's before you tonight is Harvest Meadows PUD number 25-2. We'll start with the criteria for the PUD review criteria first. Number one, the proposed PUD provides for adequate utilities, services, and parking to service the proposed development. The first one is the public water supply issue.
It's public. We have, is it Green Acres, I believe?
Yeah, it's East
Yeah,
Green
East
Acres.
Green Acres.
They provided the bill serve letter.
Thank you. No issues with that one, no big debate. Number two, same question for the public wastewater collection system.
Be the city.
It's the city, and that's been addressed, and it's also, I think, a condition in the staff report, or condition with regard to the Guy Road lift station. I think that's in there, but, so that's taken care of as conditioned.
Thank you. Next one is providing adequate accommodations for other utilities necessary to support the proposed development.
So, I mean, they've dealt with the parking issue by making sure that there are 2-car garages and 2 cars in the front, just like every other single-family residential subdivision in Post Falls.
That's a really
sorry,
big, that's
D.
a big improvement over what we had before.
Right, sorry, I think I jumped to D. You were talking
Yeah.
about other utilities.
Sorry, this one has to do with generally the easements, whether there's sufficient easements.
Yeah, there's
easements,
sufficient,
yeah.
that 15 feet.
Yeah, the easement,
is more
are
than
larger.
sufficient.
Sufficient to support both private and public roadways and the infrastructure.
Right.
I don't know that there was much testimony opposing that one.
Yeah.
Right, if the standard is 10 feet and they're providing 12 and a half feet from behind the sidewalk, that's more than adequate.
Thank you. Now on the parking issue.
Yes, that's more improved, vastly improved. And by going with the 2-car garages, that improves things greatly.
It is a very tight fit in terms of a 16-foot wide driveway and a 16-foot wide garage is tight, but it is adequate.
Right, it is tight, but that's what our standard is, and that's,
Right, and
that's every other subdivision in
Agreed.
Post Falls, right?
Agreed.
And this one engendered a lot of debate last time, having, sufficient parking and the issues. It looks like the applicant has changed the proposal to address some of those needs. If there's any other discussion on that one, I'd encourage it. Okay. Number two, the proposed PUD provides for an integrated transportation network that adequately serves the development by providing for the continuation of arterial and collector streets consistent with the master plan for transportation.
Well, I mean, the widening of Spokane Street definitely takes care of item A. And with regards to providing connectivity, connecting, was it Tennessee out to Spokane Street provides connectivity from that adjoining subdivision out, which is consistent with the master plan.
There's improvement, looking at B, snow storage, there's been improvement on that from the last hearing also.
And the 2 public streets that are going through the project, so Tennessee Avenue and Holstein Avenue, those are both a dedication of over an acre each. And that's coming off of costs that could end up being a city cost. In other words, the developer's putting in those streets, providing the land for those streets. That all goes back to improving our network, our traffic network. It's providing additional ways in and out of the subdivision as a whole, and not at the cost of the city. I think that's pretty important.
It does complete the puzzle in the area, if you will.
There was also some discussion under B on the modifications to the snow storage issue, which was something the commission was debating last time. I don't know if there's any comments on that issue at this point.
Well, they show that they increased
it's
their
improved.
storage now.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let's go to 2C. providing a pedestrian and bicycle system to provide adequate circulation through the development and to the open space areas.
Sidewalks will go in, and then the multi-use trail on Spokane Street.
As well as the connection through the open space to the subdivision to Spokane Street of the bike system.
All right. Criteria number 3, the proposed PUD provides for enhanced community design by incorporating any significant natural, scenic, or historical features.
I don't think there was anything noted.
I'm not certain there was any testimony on anything on that issue.
Nothing noted.
Okay. Integrating a mix of compatible land uses in the development and buffering or separating incompatible uses.
Well, there's single-family residential uses adjoining single-family residential uses. And so when we're speaking about land use, we're not speaking about lot size, but just strictly land use, and single-family next to single-family is the same.
And there are restrictions on the annexation for single-family use only for this development, so they are somewhat limited in that issue, what they could propose.
Single-family detached.
Detached, yes, sir.
Yes.
C, locating the proposed uses and lot sizes in the manner which blends with the surrounding uses, the neighborhoods, and the facilities.
Yeah, again, I guess, these are going to be detached single-family homes. While they will be smaller, they will kind of blend in with everything else to serve a greater purpose, in my opinion.
And I did do some math here. So if we take the area of the open space and divide it by the 85 lots, we get 608 square feet. If you add that to the 3377 average, you come out with 3985, 15 square feet per lot shy of the 4,000 minimum.
That's what that's all my scribbles here too. If you take just the open space, add that back to the net residential area, these homes are on 7.8 acres. At 4,000 square feet minimum lot size, that's 85 acres, or that's 85 units.
Right.
So essentially, we're taking those 85 units, and instead of spreading them out, we're compacting them onto a smaller portion of the land, but then in exchange, providing a bunch of open space.
Correct.
And I think part of the reason for that is just the shape and the configuration of the property itself.
Right. I don't know if they'd ever get to 85 at 4,000 because of the configuration. They're kind of
Right.
taking some of the wonky area and using it for open space, which is smart. But it does essentially meet that 4,000 square foot if we're talking about a gross land area minus the right-of-way. So I guess that's net.
Minus right away and the
Net
private
land area.
streets and, yep.
Right.
I would agree with that.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. The next one is the 10% open space requirement. I think we've addressed that one.
They have met that. I want to talk about the recreational needs portion
Sure.
of that. And I do think that the addition of a children's play structure in the open space tract is necessary to meet the recreational needs, simply because the lots are so small and the yards are so small that the recreational needs of kids in that neighborhood.
What about us old guys? How about bocce ball?
Oh,
Yeah.
Pickleball.
you guys have driver's licenses.
Well,
You
So
do.
So you're talking about adding that as a condition?
I am. I think that would be an appropriate condition.
I would have to question that just a little bit, only because, it's a house, if you're in an apartment, you have most of the time you have nothing.
I would disagree.
Green space or something.
Most of our apartment complexes now have play structures
But
or
I just,
something.
I don't know, at this time, to put that on the developer that he has to, his requirement was green space. It wasn't, for a PUD, it's green space. It's not required that they have, play things or anything like that.
What's the closest city park?
Yeah, and they have, they have a little yard. It might not be big, but at least there is a yard there. And then they have the green space they can go to do other things. I just think at this late time to put it on the developer that he has to.
I think it's a small ask. And the reason I say that is having costed some of them out recently. They're not that expensive. I mean, a place, they can get really expensive if you really want to. But they don't have to be. And I'm not saying that they have to go with the super duper razoo children's play structure, but something better than just the open field. I mean, if you drive through Greenside Vistas, they've got a little common park out in the middle, and the kids aren't using it hardly at all. Put a play structure in it, probably going to get some use.
I agree with that. I live in the Meadows and I drive by where they have those play areas and there's kids there.
But that's an extra cost for the HOA too, to keep it maintained.
True.
It is. It certainly is.
Commissioners, my only comment on that, and I don't mean to weigh in on the debate, is cities had other subdivisions where they've had a requirement for some sort of play structure to be imposed. Sometimes what's happened is somebody has gone out to Costco, bought a play structure, put it up there, and in 2 seasons it falls apart. And then the HOA gets, and the people get angry at the city for not maintaining it, which really wasn't the city's obligation in the first place. So there is a balance there. I'm just cautioning, if you do want to make a motion, that's certainly your prerogative to include that as a condition, with it recognizing the costs involved, but there can be incidental effects as well.
Right. And I understand that there's long-term ramifications of that and the long-term maintenance. In this case, I think, I mean, and we did it before, I think on By the Meadows, the By the Meadows subdivision, there was a little open space, did a PUD.
Well, and I don't have a problem if the developer's willing to, go along with that. I'm not saying, but I just.
Good point, though.
It does seem like a bit of a reach for us to put that on the developer.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, sorry about that.
I'll say one thing though, Chris.
Yes, sir.
I think the property, I like the idea of what they're doing here. I like the product. I like the concept. And I like the idea of affordable housing for people. I just don't believe that this property is going to achieve that. That's the problem that I have with it.
Agreed.
I don't believe that the people saving are going to be happy to, if they have the choice of this property and one down the road, and the other one down the road has 4,000-foot lots, and they cost $440,000, and these are $425,000. I don't think this is going to be a popular product, but that's not my call. That's the developers. It's their property, and so I think it doesn't fit because there's too many streets and they have too many lot costs for the number of lots. The costs are too high because of the number of improvements they have to make. So I don't think it's a very good fit, but nonetheless, it's their property, and we do have to try some things to try to get affordable housing. And so if they want to make a crack at it, my worry for the city long-term is that it will be a unpopular neighborhood that will become run down and won't be a success. I personally worry, but I'd be very happy to be wrong on that. So I really think it comes down to the developer, though. It's their property.
If you dig into the numbers, impact fees are a huge.
Yeah.
That's going to be a much bigger.
Way bigger.
Price determinant than lot density by far.
Yeah, this isn't the way to save the money, and it's not going to, I don't think, be effective, but they can sure give her a shot if they want to.
And if these are, let's say, a minimum of 1,500 square foot houses, I don't see how it's possible to get them under 500,000 in the current world.
I have to imagine they run the numbers, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right. Appreciate the dialogue on that issue, gentlemen, and Madam Commissioner. Number 4, the PUD provides for timely development of the property and security for the future completion by ensuring that each development block contains the necessary elements to exist independently from future blocks. This one addresses some of the phased development. I think there's a 3-phased subdivision proposed.
Complete in 3 phases.
So, and that's condition number 3 that on the staff report. And I would just add to that it needs to be completed in the 3 phases, but each of those phases needs to include the common area that they show will be in those phases. So in other words, it's not finishing phase 1, the homes, and then the open space is left open and they're already into phase 2.
Would that be a subdivision condition then?
I agree with that.
I'm trying to figure out exactly what.
Just making
is
sure
trying to
that
be
the open
accomplished.
space goes with
If
the
you look at
phase.
if you look at the phasing maps that he gave us, or the plats that he gave us, it shows the common area for each
Right, right, right,
phase. I just want to make sure that those are done
I
that
think
way.
the last time we kind of were, we added a condition that
We
said
did, but now it's
that-
different.
but yeah, but we could add the same condition that construction of phase 3 can't commence until the completion of all open spaces. So that way,
Yeah, or just finish each phase or something. The biggest concern is not getting the common area done.
right, I agree.
And just jumping into the next one.
So,
So how we can address that wording wise would be good.
I mean, the common area is part of each phase development.
That's-
So
yeah, that's
it's-
kinda how I
that's
see
just. I mean,
Since we
it's-
have the subdivision application here, I think that's the place to
Yes.
ensure it. And I think it probably is insured by the
So
subdivision.
usually we put it in with the main governing doc, so and this would be the PUD. So you would sit there and say, so
So
the
the
wording
op-
kind of matters. So if it's construction before, you can't go into construction prior to completion of phase 1 and 2. That allows them, when they're going through phase 1, theoretically, they can start construction before 100% completion of 2. So just the wording and how the semantics does play a role on when they can start construction of phase 2 as part of the timing of the platting of phase 1.
Let's just keep it simple, is that the open space is considered subdivision infrastructure to be completed as part of each phase. So it's basically, I mean, it's just like the swales or the sidewalks or anything like that. It's just the open space is part of it.
One thing I don't want, though, is to hold bond or surety for phase 1 and 2 and have the argument that they can start construction on phase 3. Ideally, you'd have them actually completed on phase 1 and 2 before they can start construction on phase 2. On phase 3, sorry.
Yeah, I don't.
Except for the fact that, like, if they're going through and paving roads,
There's got to be an economy of scale.
yeah, you want to let them pave the roads.
Well, there's all of that, and then there's the fact that if they're paving in November, you're not going to put hydro seeding down.
Right.
Right? So that's the,
So my question would be, can we direct staff to just include that to make sure that the way the phasing is done, because I'm not an expert in that.
We had a lessons learned
Yeah.
in the community where basically there was a park that was not completed because it was done as part of phase 3, and
And developer's done.
well, sometimes they do walk away.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Right?
For
And
one
so
reason or another.
having a hook in there to where they can, if they walk away, the odds are they're not going to walk away, with the right conditions, or if they do, at least the community there has their open space.
Right.
And then you don't have an HOA trying to figure out how to complete their open space through some sort of bond or surety that was posted by some other party.
Agreed.
Right? And so where do you stick that caveat,
And we really would like it phase by phase, because if they start phase 2, they could sell out 1 and 2 before 1's open space is even completed.
But where to start? Is that a time of plat? Is it time of construction? They have completely two different implications.
I mean, if it's part of the infrastructure for the subdivision, then the way the city bonding process works is that the way it works is that if they don't complete it, they have to bond for it, and that they're not allowed subdivision completion until the bond goes to warranty, which means that they're not allowed COs until, it's either building permits or COs until,
We generally don't hold the builder oftentimes separate from the person doing the subdivision and platting.
Right. I
So
know.
holding the CO up, you're holding the wrong person hostage for an obligation to the person developing the lots.
And you're also holding a bond that the developer is on the hook for
Right.
1.5 times the cost of the remaining, which, I mean, it kind of sucks that if they don't do it, that it puts the city on the hook, but that's probably the appropriate hook to have in them, so that you can go after their bond. And
Except for the tract is on a private, so we usually don't take bond money and improve private lots.
right, which is why I phrased it the way I did, to consider the open space a public, part of the public infrastructure. I mean, just to allow that, is that, Chris, is that
Well,
out of bounds there?
I think what we previously did, to allow them enough flexibility to control their development, is we said phases 1 and 2 shall be complete before you start phase 3. That means complete phases 1 and 2, so if they need to get all their open space, I mean, that was what was previously suggested. This is the same proposal, more or less.
That's fair enough.
And
I'll go with that.
And I think that addresses most of your concerns without requiring them to complete all of phase 1 before moving on to phase 2, because they do need some flexibility in ability to sell homes to pay for that infrastructure, I assume.
Yep, absolutely.
So that would be my recommendation, commissioners. But it'll be.
So that, we'd be adding that to condition number 3.
That would be a modification, and I think that was previously proposed by Mr. Manley in the last round, so I would adopt that language, okay? All right. Number 4B, ensuring that each building in the development lot has sufficient access around the structure to allow for continual maintenance of the building and access for emergency services.
That's done through setbacks.
I think the setbacks have addressed some of that. I'm not sure there was much testimony to the contrary on that issue.
Right, they're just standard R2 setbacks.
Yeah, and meeting the city requirements,
Yep.
sure. And finally, ensuring that the funding mechanism exists to adequately maintain the common areas that are not publicly maintained.
I think this is where we talk about the,
And this is on condition number 11.
right, and I think this.
I would just change this wording. So right now, I would change it to read something along these lines. The homeowners association for the project shall be required to maintain all common areas, including right-of-way frontage adjacent to open space tracts, private roads, streets, alleyways, including paving, landscaping, irrigation, and snow removal. And the HOA shall provide a funding mechanism for capital repair replacement in the future.
I think we need to add streets and private streets and alleys.
I did.
You did put private streets and alleys in
Oh,
there?
yeah.
Okay. I'm deaf.
I was
as a
going
post. All right, thank you. Yeah, that's simple.
Okay.
I mean, at the end of the day, we can't force, we're not enforcing the CCNRs.
Right.
But we can try to educate these home buyers. My biggest concern is when we have first-time home buyers stretching to get to these purchase prices, whatever the price is, and they're in there 5 years, developer's gone, street needs a new slurry coat, and here's your bill for $50,000.
Right, special assessment time.
It doesn't work.
Well, I understand that, but at the same time, is that not something that should be in our requirements when somebody's coming in to get a PUD? They're told ahead of
No.
time, if you have private streets, this is one of the
It is
things
not
has to be
currently.
done. No, it isn't. That's what I'm saying. How do we just throw it on a developer right now? Shouldn't it be, instead of that, shouldn't it
Because
be
we have the
something-
option to do it when it's a PUD.
I don't know
I'm-
that that's what I'm questioning, because you just pick out one PUD and say, okay, we're going to do it to you because you have private streets, but we haven't done it before.
We've done
So
it on
should
like
be-
the last 5 approvals, we put it in there.
Yeah, Commissioners, I appreciate the comment. I believe it warrants a larger discussion as to making folks more aware on the front end if they're going to propose private streets and infrastructure, to have them understand upfront what some of those obligations are, at least the city's concerns, to avoid the public maintaining that private infrastructure in the future when it's inevitably going to fail in the future.
Well, yeah, and I totally agree with that, but I think it should be an upfront thing that they should know before, when they come in to apply for a PUD or something, this is one of your conditions.
So I think that needs to go back to the staff level, and we need to take a look at the code and see if it's going to, we are doing a subdivision update right now as we speak. I will bring it through the admin's channels, but I think it warrants a larger discussion.
I think everybody understands it except for the buyer. And that's the person that needs to understand it. I don't know how you convey it to the buyer.
So having been involved in similar projects, you also run into, on the back end, FHA, HUD, VA requirements, and a lot of those secondary markets, when they look at HOAs, they're gonna look at the capital reserve fund. We don't, by code, require it. But if, especially if you're building affordable housing, it's gotta be in there.
So you're saying that they wouldn't fund the loan for the buyer if it's not sufficient?
They won't.
I do know that Oregon State Code and Washington State Code have
Yes.
provisions for
Most do.
kinds of things. I don't think Idaho State Code does.
Bunch of hippies.
Right?
I don't know if you get any
Pretty
kind of
hippies.
like tax credit financing for a project, those capital reserve requirements are huge.
Right.
All right.
Probably a
Think it-
separate issue we need to try to
Yeah, I
figure out
think
how to
it's a
address in
bigger-
general.
It's a
Like I
bigger
said,
convers-
I think we have the ability as a commission to make suggestions to the code and revisions where we see them appropriate, and that's probably the better channel rather than doing this on the fly for each hearing and then imposing those
But
surprises.
I do want it changed for this one, for the conditions.
Sure.
I think it sets them up for success, and it doesn't hurt the developer. All it does is it just ensures that everybody knows upfront that there are expenses. Because driving down the street, the normal person doesn't realize that that blue street sign means it's not maintained by the city. And that the city plows aren't gonna drive by, and that in 20 years, the city isn't gonna repave it.
Yeah.
So we've concluded on the PUD criteria. My recommendation is let's go through the subdivision criteria and then open it up for further debate and motion, if that's all right with the commissioners.
Sounds good.
So on subdivision 25-4, this is the request for the 85 lots in the R2 zone for Harvest Meadows. Criteria number 1, I think we have satisfied. It is determining whether adequate supply for water supply has been made. I think we have addressed that, so we need not revisit that at this time. Same with number 2, adequate provisions in their subdivision code for the public sewage system, and it can service the proposed sewer flows. We have the city of Post Falls as well on this issue.
Correct.
Number 3, proposed streets are consistent with the transportation element of the comprehensive plan. We've had some discussion on that one. I don't know if there's any further debate on this issue.
No, I think we talked about it with regards to the PUD. So at Spokane Street, widening improvements meet the transportation master plan, and providing the connectivity to the adjoining residential streets completes that hole in the residential grid.
Thank you, Commissioners. Number 4, topographical or hazardous issues have been identified. Don't recall much testimony on that one, other than it being over the aquifer, which is our standard response. The area proposed, number 5, for the subdivision is zoned for the use, the R2 zoning, and the use conforms to the other requirements found in the code.
Yes.
Yeah, R2 is an allowable zoning district.
As modified by the PUD.
Yes, and on this one, there is that notation that if the PUD were approved, then the lot sizes and the other uses would conform to our other requirements of the code.
Otherwise, it would not.
True. And then finally, adequate plans to ensure the community will bear no more than its fair share costs of fees or off-site mitigation services.
And this is the impact fees that we've talked about for public safety, parks, streets.
As well as like street dedications and street improvements that they're actually
Easements.
doing within the project too.
Yeah, and on the frontages, and on the frontage, Spokane
Yeah.
Street.
Exactly.
So.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners.
All right. Anybody have any other further discussion or comments?
I do.
I do too.
Go ahead.
Well, essentially, we approved this a while back. It's just been massaged in a few different ways. The last time the PUD came in, I voted against it. But this is right back to one that we approved. For the concerns for the people that don't want it there, this really is R2 light. mean, and I brought that up at that other meeting. It is so close to it. I mean, yeah, you don't want it there at all. Neither do I. I live a quarter mile from there. But it's there. We need housing. I don't see any problems with that. It's not that far off from R1. I've never been in one of these meetings where so many people are in favor of a project, so the developer's got a lot of friends. So I would say, I mean, for me, it's kind of went back to what we've already approved.
Chris?
So in the conditions, one of the conditions number 4, reduction of minimum lot size from 4,000 square feet to 2,800 square feet, not to exceed 7.35 lots per acre. I'd like to change that to not to exceed 85 lots. Because I have no idea still what we're applying the lot, which acreage are we applying it to?
I think that makes sense.
It just drives me nuts.
It takes the math out of it.
Yes. And I don't think there's any issue with that because it's essentially the same number, depending on which acreage you're using.
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing I had.
Sounds good to me. Any other comments?
Mr. Schreiber, excluding the tracts, excluding the open space tracts,
No?
Yes,
85 lots excluding
85 building lots.
Oh, sorry, yes, yes.
Sorry,
85,
there's a distinction in our code between
Yep.
tracts and lots, and I'd like to not.
perfect.
Any other comments? All right, if there's nothing else. Entertain a motion.
Just doing all the changes, you got,
Chris has got it.
Wrote all the edits down.
okay.
Chris, you got this one?
So what are we going to start with? Are we going to start with the subdivision, or do we start with the PUD? Or do we approve them simultaneously?
I think you can do them both through one fell swoop. You can take a vote on the PUD first, would probably be my preference, and then the conditions can apply to both. Do that.
So we'll do 2 votes.
Sure.
So just start with the PUD then.
Okay, so how do we want to make that motion?
My suggestion, Commissioners, is take a vote on the PUD and then subject to the conditions as described in,
So the conditions themselves are for the PUD, not for the subdivision? Because to me, it looks like these approval criteria are for both. They're mixed.
PUD, we're going to do the PUD and subdivision.
Make one super motion then.
So, and I'm sorry for the confusion. Let's just have the conditions apply to both, and I'll ferret it out on the back end in the final
Okay.
report.
All right.
So take a motion on the PUD first, subject to the conditions as described in the motion on the subdivision.
Then the following,
Does that work?
okay.
Thank you.
Let's see if we can try this. This might need some amendment. I make a motion to approve the Harvest Meadows PUD, file number PUD 25-2, finding that it meets the approval criteria in Post Falls Municipal Code, and I'm assuming that's section 17.12.060, and as outlined here in our deliberation, subject to the conditions that will be introduced in the related subdivision and contained in the staff report, and direct staff to prepare a written, reasoned decision.
Very good. A motion on the floor.
I second.
And a second.
Do we need to amend any of those conditions?
We're going to amend them
Do that with the
in
subdivision?
the subdivision.
Okay, since they're going to be for both, do we need to amend them for both?
They're going to be amended here in a moment.
Okay.
Commissioner, I think
All right.
we'll go through them and make the amendments and apply them to both.
Okay.
So, unless you want to go through them twice.
No.
Okay. We have a motion and a second on the PUD. Can we have roll call, please?
Carey,
Yes.
Kimball,
Yes.
Stephenson,
Yes.
Schlauthauer,
Yeah.
Schreiber,
Yes.
Wilhelm.
Yes.
Okay. Motion is approved.
Okay, want me to take a shot at this with the amendments?
Yes, please.
I move to approve Harvest Meadows subdivision, file number SUBD-25-4, finding that it meets the approval criteria in Post Falls Municipal Code 17.12.060, and as outlined in our deliberation, subject to the conditions contained in the staff report. Those conditions are conditions 1 through 12. We are amending with the amendments to condition number 3. Condition number 3 is the proposed subdivision must be completed in 3 phases or less. We'd like to add to that, what was the recommended wording there again? Because that one I didn't write down, sorry.
I think phases 1 and 2 are completed, fully completed, including the common area before 3. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so phase 1 and 2 are fully completed prior to commencement on phase 3.
Well, 1 and 2 with common areas.
Common area.
1 and 2 with common areas. Condition number 4A, and this is in regards to the reduction in minimum lot size from 4,000 to 2,000 square foot. We're simply going to change that from not to exceed 7.3 lots per acre. We're going to change that to not to exceed 85 lots, not including the common tracts.
Okay.
Let's see. The last one is condition number 11. And we're amending condition number 11 to read as, the homeowners association for the project shall be required to maintain all common areas, including right-of-way frontage adjacent to open space tracts, private roads, streets, and alleyways, including paving, landscaping, irrigation, and snow removal, and provide a funding mechanism for capital repair replacement in the future. And I think that's it. Are we going to add a play structure or not?
I would like that.
Let's add that as condition 13. That developer shall include a play structure in one of the common area open space tracts.
Okay. Okay, we have a
Second?
motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Carey,
Yes.
Kimball,
Yes.
Stephenson,
Yes.
Schlauthauer,
Yes.
Schreiber,
Yes.
Wilhelm.
Yes.
All right, that is approved. All right, we're gonna take 5 minutes. We've been going at it for over 2 hours now.
You gotta
Call the meeting back to order. Next on the agenda tonight, public hearing for Echo Estates annexation. Well, open the hearing.
Good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Justin Souter, and tonight we have the Echo Estates annexation, file number ANNX-24-5. The property owner is Eagle Crest Land LLC, and the applicant is Olson Engineering. And the applicant is requesting that the Planning and Zoning Commission forward a recommendation to the City Council for a medium-density residential zoning on approximately 9.72 acres as part of an annexation request into the City of Post Falls. And again, this is just a forward recommendation to the City Council, so there will not actually be a decision on it tonight, just so everyone knows. Here is the project location in the red square here. You can see it is just north of Echo Drive. We have McGuire Road right here running north and south, and then we have Corbin Road over here. And then it's at the terminus of Okanagan Avenue, which this is the Gabrillo Estates right here. So hopefully that gives you an idea of where we're talking about. As you can see here in the black hatch square, this property does not have a zoning designation at this time. And the properties to the north, south, and the west are all within the county. There's also some properties to the east that are within the county. And then again, we have the Gabrillo Estates, which is R1 single-family residential. We also have some R2 medium residential to the northeast of this property site. And the applicant again is requesting that their property would also have a zoning designation of R2. Go back one second here. If you can see, it is actually two different parcels. There's one parcel here, and then this is another parcel. So currently, each lot is being used for a single-family home. It is over the Rathdrum Prairie Aquifer. The East Green Acres Irrigation District will supply the water, and the City of Post Falls will provide the wastewater. We have adequate capacity. We also have a will serve letter from the Irrigation District. As far as traffic, Echo Drive is a local residential roadway, and additional rights of way and easements would need to be provided as part of the annexation. Here is the review criteria for a zone change. There's 3 of them. We'll start with 1. So is the proposed zoning district consistent with the future land use map and focus area contained in the currently adopted Post Falls Comprehensive Plan? Here on the left, we have a graphic of the future land use designation. It is medium density residential. That is exactly what the applicant is requesting as well. It is also within the West Prairie focused area. That's the graphic on the right. And the proposed annexation, this area in the focus area is expected to develop as some portion of residential. So the zoning request is also consistent with the focus area. So we can see here the implementing zoning districts are R2, R3, RM, and SC4. And so R2 falls within that area. Planning Manager John is actually going to talk a little more about the future land use designation and specifically this area of town.
Yeah, so back when we did the comp plan in 2020, we had a special workshop. This is one of those areas. We had 3 areas. This is one of them. So we took into consideration, and I have it highlighted up there, the medium density trailer park. You got to the west, you have the commercial industrial corridor along Celtice Way. And then you also have a McGuire on the east side. You got a mix of, you got the LDS church, you got a multifamily site, you have some industrial facilities. I think you have an auto auction yard out there. And so what we looked at is how does this transition, when you going 20 years in the future, if you're planning 20 years out in the comprehensive plan, and this area is in our exclusive tier, and you're making some base assumptions that this more than likely is going to evolve in time and has an increased likelihood of having annexation requests, how would you transition away from those uses on Celtice Way going northbound towards the railroad tracks? And so The concept through the workshop that we did, through that public outreach, is what you see there, is that you'd have that business commercial along the north side of Celtice Way, that's that pink, and then you would mitigate some of those impacts with the R3, or not the R3, the higher density zoning designation, and then transition to the medium density zoning designation. And then that blue that you see there, that's that transitional use, because it's unknown how and what would may be developed in that medium density or in the higher density. And then once it does, it would give you an insight on how that may transition to the railroad corridor. But just wanted to give you a little bit of how the current condition is and why it's there as part of this request.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the second review criteria, which states, is the proposed zoning district consistent with the goals and policies contained in the current adopted Post Falls Comprehensive Plan that are relevant to the area under consideration? So the project site is within the West Prairie Focus Area, which is called out in our current comprehensive plan, and as an area for future mixed residential uses between McGuire Road and Corbin Road. Specifically, this project site falls right in between those. The annexation request is consistent with Goal 1 of the comprehensive plan, which seeks to grow and sustain a balanced, resilient economy for Post Falls, providing community prosperity and fiscal health. So the R2 zone can deliver attainable housing choices in the form of cottage homes, tiny homes, twin homes, or townhomes, diversifying the housing stock within Post Falls. And diversifying the housing stock may assist in sustaining a balanced and resilient economy for Post Falls. The recent 2025 Housing Needs Analysis Report encourages the diversification of housing types to meet community needs. And then there are also several factors that need to be considered when applying a new zone designation, and these are outlined in Policy 2. So we need to consider future land use mapping, compatibility with surrounding land uses, infrastructure and service plans, existing and future traffic patterns, and goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. We've already touched on the fact that the proposed zoning designation is consistent with the future land use designation, and it's compatible with some of the surrounding land uses. And now we're going through the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. As far as infrastructure, sanitary sewer is within Okanagan Avenue and is within a shared sewer service basin that allows flows to collect to the closest lift station. In this case, that would be the Montrose lift station, which has capacity for the requested zone and is in conformance with the city's water reclamation plan. For future traffic patterns, a future subdivision would have access via Echo Drive, which is again south to the project site, and then to the east to Gabriel Estates through Okanagan Avenue. That would provide access to McGuire. And then from Echo Drive, you could get to Corbin off to the west or to McGuire to the east. And Echo Drive would be designed based on a local residential collector standard, which means additional rights of way of dedication would be required with the annexation, and that would be for sidewalks, drainage, and utility easements. The annexation request is also consistent with Goal 7 of the comprehensive plan, which seeks to establish types and quantities of land uses in Post Falls, supporting community needs and the city's long-term sustainability. So the R2 land use designation may help with community needs and long-term sustainability by providing the different housing types we talked about and that are discussed in the housing needs report, as well as policy 15 here in the comprehensive plan. And that all encourages the diversification of the housing. Annexation of the subject site with the zoning request would help provide land for future housing needs, the medium density residential, in an area that is projected to be annexed into the city. Upon subdivision development, roadway and pedestrian improvements would be required and completed, allowing for the continuity of roadways and help create further pedestrian connections through sidewalks and trails, which is also encouraged here by Policy 33. The final review criteria is, does the proposed zoning district create a demonstrable adverse impact upon the delivery of services by any political subdivision, providing public service within the city? and there have been no identified demonstrable adverse impacts upon the delivery of services at this time. Here's a list of the agencies that were notified, and we received comments back from 4 agencies. They were either remain neutral or comment at time of development or had no comments. Here's that review criteria once more, just for your reference. And then finally, the site itself. And then just as I want to mention again that the recommendation tonight will be sent to City Council for further deliberation and a final decision. So that concludes my presentation. I'm available to answer questions, and John can also help answer any questions.
Is there any other land out there that's pending city council annexation? Or I feel like we've seen a bunch of stuff out there.
Midway.
That far? Is it
We
north?
just had Painted Rock recently.
Yeah, Midway.
Which is on the corner of Midway and McGuire.
Correct.
Okay.
And then
That
to the
was-
west of that was Lingar. It's right above the word Midway. It was Lingar.
Both R2?
Painted Rock was R2?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So I thought, I just couldn't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, Gabriel
Where are
Estates
they at?
there, well, you weren't here then, it'd be for John. Gabriel Estates went before city council for R2, and they got turned down, I think twice.
I think they came to P&Z.
They
They got
withdrew.
forwarded a zoning recommendation of R2.
Right.
When it went to city council, they approved it as an R1.
R1, correct.
Then they came in for a rezone, right?
For a
few
portion,
lots.
but they didn't go, they didn't go, what they withdrew. They were gonna, there was 3 lots that was adjacent to
That's right.
the northern R2 that they were wanting to, they were desiring or contemplating going to R2, and they decided not to pursue that any further.
So it started R2 here, ended up R1 on Gabriel.
Ultimately.
Yep.
Yeah. So lots going on. in
So
that
the two
area.
up on Midway, where they're waiting to go before council,
No, they've been approved.
they were approved.
At R2.
Cool, thank you. Anybody have any questions for staff? Okay, thank you. Invite the applicant up. Name for the record, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jeremy Terzulli. I'm a land use consultant collaborating with Olson Engineering this evening on behalf of Ryan Stoker, Eagle Crest Land LLC. I felt that the staff report was incredibly comprehensive, and for this recommendation to City Council is only for the zoning designation, but I'm going to go over and give you a little background towards the end here on how we arrived here and invite some discussion, and that'll explain itself when I get to that point. The 3 very more or less simple yes or no questions with regard to our review criteria. Is the proposal consistent with the future land use map and the focus area? It's relatively simple to answer. You don't have a presentation. Perfect. Thank you. So the property designation in the future land use map is R2, or rather is medium density residential. R2 is an appropriate implementing zoning district. And then future guidance is usually in the focus area, which, again, a lot of this is just redundant from the staff report, so I'll move very quickly. The focus area, we're down there in the southeast corner of the West Prairie. This is kind of, I did bring the proposal midway, about 1/8 of a mile north of this a couple of months ago, so this presentation is very much a carbon copy of that because we're so incredibly close. The West Prairie focus area that applies to this request is highlighted here in yellow. That mixed residential is envisioned between McGuire and Corbin Road, putting some of those higher densities near the commercial corridors in arterial. And as we're shifting further south towards that Southeast corridor, you would anticipate that the densities would get a little higher down there. And as the staff report pointed out, perhaps even some medium to high density to buffer between single-family residences and those commercial/industrial uses. So we think that this aligns seamlessly with the comprehensive plan and the future land use map, as well as the focus area. And then the comp plan does talk about adjacent areas and neighboring properties. If you do look at the Montrose subdivision, it's very close to here. Okanagan has become sort of an extension as we're seeing some of that medium density residential develop out. Midway, some of you guys did ask about that. Those were both the Painted Rock and the one that I presented were both approved R2. And there were a couple of guardrails put on by city council that they would remain single-family residences up there, which was all agreed to. So this same pattern is kind of working its way in this little odd shape between the tracks, Celtice, Corbin, and McGuire. In the staff report, they did point out goals and policies that I also agreed with. One thing I did notice in the staff report regarding policy 38 is that their staff comment points out that per the West Prairie focus area of the comp plan, the infrastructure to support urban development is mostly not in place at this time, but has been planned for since the most recent comp plan update. As staff did clarify, this actual area here south of the tracks is adequately served by city infrastructure. So I think the comp plan speaks more to the West Prairie focus area along Pleasant View, which is very true north of the tracks. We have no pipe in the ground out there, and the infrastructure is not available at this time. Impact and delivery of services, no. Dozens of agencies are notified during this process, and no demonstrable adverse impacts were noted. So what I wanted to point out and allude to was there was a subdivision that was applied for concurrently with this annexation. Our developer has developed all around the community these little 5 and 10 acre infill pieces, adjacent pieces. They're kind of his bread and butter. He does them very well. He's provided a lot of different lot sizes, a lot of different final housing products all throughout this community. And his thought after meeting with many of the neighbors, and he did go out and knock on a bunch of doors, they thought bigger lots was what they would prefer if this was to get annexed. And then John and I got talking, and we kind of agreed that we would sort of have to invert all of the arguments I made for the Midway project to ask for an R1 zoning designation. And ultimately, it is not in conformance with the comprehensive plan and the future land use map. Although Mr. Stoker said, I'd be fine with R1. I can make 8, 9, 10,000 square foot lots out here work. But we don't want to paint ourselves into a corner, get in front of council and say, we are doing the will of the neighbors that says they would prefer, if it is to get annexed and if it does get approved for development, larger lots would be something that we would prefer, and then have city council say, but it's not in conformance with the comprehensive plan. And that's sort of the discussion I'm inviting this evening to see how we handle that. We had proposed, I shouldn't say proposed, there are 3 to 4 designs currently floating around with the development team. Some of them, it's all larger lots. Mr. Stoker said, I can make that work, but it's not in conformity with the future land use map. He said, okay, I'd like to do these twin homes, a concept that's something nobody else in town is trying. And most people see twin homes kind of stacked in there like cordwood. Well, except between structures, he's proposing 30 feet between structures. So yes, 15-foot side yard setbacks, deeper lots, so that half of a twin home could have a shop on that lot. It's a unique idea, not a whole lot of people doing it. There's a thought, well, we give up a little bit in the home, meaning it's cheaper to build because we're building 4 walls for 2 residences. Party wall becomes the property line. You give up a little in the home, but maybe you get yourself a little 20 by 30 shop in the back. So they're spread out a lot more so that you can have a drive aisle that goes all the way back to the shop. And then we have some hybrid version of both of those. There's a couple versions floating around out there. My client can make any one of those or any combination of those work. Like I said, he's developed all around the city. We're looking for feedback. We're looking to hear what the neighbors might want to read into the public record tonight. Your discussion could be incredibly helpful as we move to council and ask for approval of this, what the appropriate zoning is, and what those appropriate guardrails could be. And with that, I stand for any questions.
Did you say there's no twin homes here? Did you say there was no twin homes here?
I'm sorry.
Did you
On this proposal?
Oh, I thought you said in the area, twin homes. There's
Oh,
not.
no. There's twin homes due north.
Yeah.
Twin homes
right
with a
there.
shop, though.
Oh,
That's
what
the
with shop.
unique
Right.
component.
Right.
And I kind of turn my head and say, I can't think of anywhere where somebody has done a twin home, because usually then they're 10 feet between structure, right? And they just
Right.
stack them up.
Right.
Envision 30 feet between structure with a 15-foot driveway that goes to the backyard and then makes a 90 into a shop. And because we're not proposing the subdivision, I didn't want to muddy the waters by bringing those slides, but here I am muddying the waters by telling you that.
But then do you come back later and go, well, no, we just want to do R2, multifamily?
No, I'm single family. I mean, Mr. Stoker is going to speak tonight.
Okay.
He's got excellent history and development in the city. If the council says we want these to be owner occupied, no problem. Put it in the CCNRs. They want single family out here, no rental units, no duplexes. We're not proposing duplexes. Twin home is not a duplex. Each unit can be sold fee simple and get a mortgage on it. All those guardrails are on the table. And if they simply say, we want standalone freestanding homes on 9,000 square foot lots, he's going to say, I'm good with that as well. We thought, and again, having done this a bunch and collaborating with Mr. Manley, it was like R1 is not, it's not in alignment with the comp plan. Oddly enough, it's a less intense use, but it does not meet the review criteria. It's kind of a weird little pickle to be in, if that makes sense.
Well, you can, their minimum lot sizes, and so you could build an R1 product in R2, right?
We certainly could.
So I don't really see the issue.
But it was when requesting the zoning designation, because my client was like, well, let's just go for R1 then. And R1 technically is not. So we could do R2, and then if it gets approved, he could decide to just go ahead and put 10,000 square foot lots up.
right.
That's completely accurate.
Yeah, you don't have to build to the maximum density, so.
If that's really the case, that sounds nice. Because I see if that turning into R2, multifamilies, all those 5-acre lots are just going to fall like dominoes. I wouldn't like to see all that multifamily there.
We're proposing 0 multifamily.
And technically you can't do, the closest thing you can to get to multifamily is townhomes, but you can't do multifamily in the R2. Townhomes are single family attached product. So we removed multifamily as an option in R2, I think about 3 years ago.
Well, twin homes, well, I guess it's not. You own each side.
Yep, they're all MLS, single family owned, 0 lot line.
Well, feedback-wise, I think you can see that we are a little reluctant to exceed the R2 requirements. And so if you can meet or exceed R2 requirements in the future for a subdivision hearing, I think that we'll all get along just fine.
Yeah, it was the point of if the subdivision was, adjacent to this application, city council could say, well, this isn't an R2 product that you're designing in the subdivision, and you're asking for R2. Just trying to be preemptive here and not box ourselves in and get denied on a technicality, I guess is what I'm trying to state.
Any other questions?
No.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
Any public testimony?
He doesn't have as many friends.
I think there was some written testimony too that was submitted already. That's in the package.
Yeah, there was 2 letters in the packet. Wishing to speak in favor, Ryan Stroker.
Yeah, I'm Ryan Stoker. I live at 224 Eagle Crest Drive in Coeur d'Alene. Like Jeremy said, I went out over a couple weekends back in March, April, and tried to meet with as many neighbors as I could. In general, they didn't want any development in the area. I showed them 3 different options. One was the twin home option, and I particularly like the shop because I'm envisioning when I was younger, I had toys. I needed a place to put the toys, and the garage just didn't work well for that. I also showed them single-family lots, basically about 5,000 square foot lots. I have had offers from like D.R. Horton and Lennar to purchase those lots. I've told them no at this time. I've also showed them an option that was 10,000 square foot lots. What I've primarily done in the past is I have worked with about 4 builders that I build larger shop lots and then sell those lots to them to build on. So some of the subdivisions are like Arrowleaf Estates, Tranquil Meadows, Quiet Ridge, Fair Estates, Verde Glen, and Ashler Ranch. So I'm willing to be flexible. I wouldn't mind at all doing the 10,000 square foot lots. That builds right into my business model. But when I saw this, I wanted to be compatible with the R2. I kind of like the twin homes look of it instead of really small single-family homes where the market's at today. Probably the single-family homes end up being better on the small lots. And if we were to be approved for that, I would probably turn and look to sell those lots to somebody like D.R. Horton or Lennar. They're going to build a less expensive home than the semi-custom builders I normally work with. They're going to be a little higher end on that end. I'd like to hear from the neighbors out there what they're looking for, and then if you have any questions for me, I'm more than happy to answer.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Melissa Morris. And while she's speaking, she has photos, so I'll pass this around all the commission members. You guys can look at that.
Good evening. My name is Melissa Morris. I am here as a resident of Post Falls and an invested citizen who resides at the terminus of Okanagan Avenue. I also want to mention no one knocked on my door. I'm here to formally oppose the proposed annexation and what was supposed to be the R2 zoning of the property adjacent to mine. While I do understand the city's need to plan for growth, this proposal fails to meet the standards previously upheld in recent annexations and does not serve the best interest of this particular community. This annexation lacks the financial upside that justified past approvals. In the Painted Rock annexation, Councilmember Westland stated, "There is no financial downside, only a financial upside, because we are not having to purchase the right-of-way." This current proposal offers no such infrastructure benefit, nor does it align with the city's stated goals of sustainable development. Furthermore, the R2 zoning designation raises serious concerns. While developers claim R2 zoning supports starter homes, the reality is far more complex. R2 zoning establishes higher residential density and crowding, compromising pedestrian safety and overall walkability. I've provided the pictures of the neighboring Wildflower Meadows community as part of such crowding. In the pictures, you will see streets are narrow because vehicles are parked on both sides and sidewalks cannot be utilized because vehicles are parked there too. R2 zoning strains public services without demonstrable benefit, violating the city's own review criteria. I have also provided pictures of my own neighborhood in which the city will not hold the landowner accountable for maintaining the vacant lots. I can, if requested, provide additional pictures as proof of the city not holding landloaders accountable for land maintenance immediately outside of my neighborhood as well. R2 zoning encourages transient residency, undermining neighborhood stability and a sense of community. When residents cycle in and out, there is less incentive to invest in the community, whether that's maintaining property, participating in local events, or looking out for one another. Over time, this turnover weakens the social fabric. Finally, R2 zoning reduces green space and disrupts the rural character of adjacent properties. This has been stated by Post Falls citizens time and time again in similar proposals. I speak from experience. If you were a member of this committee a few years back, you were sold a bill of goods by a fast-talking developer who made promises to you that he couldn't keep. That developer promised thoughtful development, a boutique community, and an exciting new development for the city of Post Falls. Unfortunately, you and the community received a broken commitment from a developer who failed to deliver, a developer who lied, and a developer who should be investigated for fraud. We were told one thing, but given another. I urge you not to repeat this mistake. In a recent city council meeting, council member Stig Leader stated, "Experts in the industry are saying this is important. Citizens are not speaking up for this." Citizen voices are not just anecdotal. Citizen voices are essential data points in the evaluation of community impact. I come to you tonight as one of many people publicly speaking up for this and respectfully oppose this proposal. I can only hope that you hear citizens tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wishing to speak in opposition, Debbie Voka. Cool. Name for the record, please.
My name is Debbie Vaca. Do you need to know where my house is? Or?
No, it's fine.
Echo. I'm on Echo. So I'm thankful to have the opportunity to speak with you, and I really hope that you do listen to the public's concerns and the reasons why we oppose this. I've been up here before, so I think growth is good for most of the towns if it's done slowly and with good plans of keeping this place a desirable area to live and raise a family. We shouldn't have roads that are full of traffic and water treatment plants that you can smell for miles away. Existing homeowners should not have to reduce their value, or developers shouldn't have the ability to reduce our home's value by overbuilding and kind of building less quality homes. Our street has pretty quality homes on it. I think Post Falls is changing too fast. The safe, quiet neighborhoods are no longer really out there. They're becoming pretty dangerous with all the traffic and just people from other areas moving in. It is still somewhat affordable, I think, compared to Washington. I mean, I have people that I know that are moving over here. I think that we have quite a bit of affordable housing at this time, which I know the multifamily is considered affordable, but it's still pretty much out of reach for most people that are locals and their income isn't what out-of-state people have. It seems developers are just wanting to make a profit instead of really caring about the area, the way that they're developing it. It's not looking that great as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, Echo is a very small, narrow road. There's no streetlights. Where it intersects with McGuire, it's very narrow. There's not room for hardly 2 cars. And so that will not change if this gets approved. And there are a lot of people that still walk our street, even though we don't have sidewalks, but it's because they say this is just a nice, quiet street. It's very beautiful just because it's not overdeveloped and overpopulated. So I would just ask that you consider to keep some of Post Falls with options for the people that do want to have land, that want to come here and have animals or grow gardens, vineyards, whatever. The single-family homes are probably a better fit for this street with some good-sized lots, because that would, it would give families that option to have that kind of a home. And once you give this land away to the hodgepodge developers, there's no going back. And then this area will no longer be a desirable place to live. So, thank you for
Thank you.
letting me talk.
Let's see, Barbara Broncho. Did you want to speak? Okay, you didn't mark. Name for the record.
Thank you for letting me voice my concerns. You've seen our property on multiple council meetings. We are north of the proposed subdivision that's going in, and we are west of the subdivision that was put in on Midway and McGuire. And your decisions impact me daily. With that subdivision on Midway and McGuire, we drove through at 4 o'clock. I counted 70 vehicles. It's not a complete subdivision, but there's so many people congested there, and the street is now very narrow because everybody parks in the street along with their access ways. But my concern with this subdivision is that it's for R2 instead of an R1. I would like to see single-family homes, and it would be very continuous of the other places that are 5-acre lots, bringing it down to single-family, and extending the single-family road of, was that Okanagan there to the east. At some point, you guys are going to have to put in a stoplight there at Corbin just to go with more traffic and the usage. And let's see. Currently, we experience a lot of unlicensed vehicles running on Midway. I could see that happening on Echo. If you call the police department, they say it's part of the county sheriff should be patrolling that. I would like to see more police presence just to monitor some of the things that we're living with. We are not in the city, but we sure are impacted by the city. And we've lived on this property since 1990. We're lifelong residents of Idaho. And just want to keep the small town feel as much as possible. I think people take more personal pride in a single family home than they do a 2-plex or 4-plex or whatever we're calling them today, whether it's a townhouse, a condo. I do appreciate that you took the time to listen to my concerns. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Kathy Blesner? Liesner? Sorry about that.
My name is Kathy Bleesner. I live on Echo. I live to the west of this development. I strongly oppose anything other than R1 with 1 home to an acre. At first, I was going to tell you, I would totally disown it because of the way that the builder talked to me. When I addressed the concerns of the road and how narrow it was, he said, oh, well, I have to make it wider down on that end. So the road's going to jog in and come back out, and then we're tiny. I said, what about our end of the road? I don't care about your end of the road. I don't have to worry about that. You do. And he told me that he wanted to put in 48 double residences. That time I said to him, you're talking about adding 200 more vehicles on this road. Less than a month ago, going west on Echo, I encountered a semi, a car carrier. He couldn't get over. I had to go down into the right-of-way and to the ditch so that he could get across. I can't imagine what 200 more cars is going to do to us. I encountered 3 ladies walking on our road yesterday morning who were appalled at what this developer wanted to do. They called it their Freedom Road. They were free from crossroads. They could walk a great distance back and forth. The landscape was beautiful because most everybody has trees. It's a nice, quiet area. I ask that you strongly do not allow an R2 in there and take away. We raise cattle. Occasionally, we don't like it, they get out. We have had neighbors let our cows out who did not like our cows. The odor bothered them. What's going to happen when I get 5 acres down? People don't like the odor of my animals. So please, think about that. I also think about the aquifer. How long is an aquifer going to hold up with all these homes that want to be built in our area? The city has trouble. They may have the capacity for the sewer treatment plant, but the odor they can't control. I have a beautiful deck that half the time in the summer, I can't sit out there because the strong is too bad. The smell of it is so strong that you can't sit out there. So please, take into consideration the people that have lived there for years. Me and my husband purchased the property in 92, the end of 92, moved in 93. We would like to stay the way that we are. We don't need all these multifamily houses in there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Wishing to speak in opposition, Wayne Plant.
I'm Wayne Plant. I live 2447 West Echo Drive. Bobby knows my place. And I'll tell you, it's just a total mess out there. I know Keegan Road, which they want to run in there to this new project. That developer left a mess all along my fence line. And when they put it in, they tore up the corner posts there right on McGuire. Never fixed that. They never even cleaned up the fence along there that's supposed to stop, the trash from blowing in, that plastic fence they put up. The whole thing is this new project, if it goes like they show this flap they gave you, fire. The houses are too damn close together. If you look at what's happening in California, and those got yards between them. We've had 60 mile an hour, 70 mile an hour winds there on McGuire, where I live. I had a tree that was this big around. It snapped it like a twig and dropped it right across the power line, excuse me. And all these factors got to be taken into consideration, and like lady said before me, you know, the traffic down Echo is getting tremendous. People don't want to go down McGuire or go down Celtice and turn north on McGuire at the traffic light. They don't want to wait. So they turn on Corbin, and then they go down Echo, and then they go north. And it's become a real traffic. It's 35 miles an hour. Midway's 25. And, you know, it's just getting worse, you know. And if they put as many houses in there as they want, you know, you're looking at the average person now has 4 cars in a single domain, you know. If they're going to do anything, I'd like to see R1, period. I mean, I got to look at those army barracks north of me there that they put in on Midway. And, you know, I realize there's more money in apartments than there is R1, single-family homes, you know. But the reason we bought there, and I've been there since '89, it's a quiet area. You got room to do things. I used to have cattle. I don't anymore. But, you know, I mean, that was the reason I moved to Post Falls. But the whole scenario has changed so radically. It's unbelievable. You know? I guess us old farts are just resistant to change. You know what I mean? But if we're going to change, let's do it right. You know. Thank you.
Thank you.
For the record, full disclosure, I probably only talked to Mr. Plant 4 or 5 times in my life. My family's 100 years in this town. I know most everybody. So,
Wishing to speak in opposition, Glenn Whipple. It says see attached pictures, but I don't see any pictures. Oh, you got them, all right.
She didn't have a clip there.
Okay, cool. That works.
It's just the road we live on. I don't know if you guys been around there or not. I know Mr. Wilhelm used to be there in the past. I don't think I have.
We can pass them around, not a big deal.
You can take that one. I saw it, yeah.
We can probably short one maybe.
That's fine, we can pass them around.
Okay. There you go. There's 2 in there.
thank you, sir. Want to sell?
Glenn Whipple. My wife and I own and live in the adjacent property to the west of the proposed annexation. We bought the property 36 years ago to be out of the city, to be in the county zoned area. The only one home acreage in that area. That's what we wanted to be in. We built our forever home, raised our family, plan to live here and keep it in the family in the future. Our neighbors still raise cattle, other livestock, and farm for fruits and vegetables. None of us want to leave the area. We like it there pretty good. By cookie cutting in city zoning in the middle of our properties, it will take away our way of life and why we bought it here. It also will depreciate our homes and our land. Years of construction, noise, and dust alone will be unbearable, as well as the noise over 100 families and a couple of hundred more vehicles up and down Echo Drive. This is a narrow street. Many people enjoy walking every day along that alley, or the street there. With approximately 120 families on the adjacent Wildflower Meadows, 18 families on adjacent Gabriel Estates, and the recently approved Painted Rock development nearby would add another 20 families. The proposed Echo Estates would add an additional 102 families. That's approximately a total of 260 families with no plans for parks for the kids or anything to play in. So they're just going to be out in the streets. And I don't understand the comprehensive plan, why we're not involved in that or get any notices on it. I guess it was done 5 years ago. and how they can kind of take over what they want to do with our land all through there. I'm just not sure how that all operates. I don't get any notices or anything, so I don't know. Maybe we can figure something out so we can maybe get some of this changed or let us know what we can do.
I'll add real quick, we're in the process of updating that. There's been many workshops, and I've gotten emails and mailings on that, so we can probably talk to the city staff, and obviously we got your information here, so.
It's on our website.
It's on the website,
So
too.
we keep all of our notices on our city website, so every 5 years, we try to update it, and so
Okay.
this is the 5th year, and
Yeah,
we're
it's-
just starting the public process. There's gonna be more public input opportunities, so.
Okay.
Now's the time to get involved, for sure.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I don't know how it worked before. I didn't get any notice on anything going on, but hopefully I'll try to stay on top of it and see what's going on. After recently researching, I found that currently hundreds of apartments for rent, approximately 80 homes and duplexes or townhouses that are under $500,000 for sale right now. While there are very few homes at $1 million and above, our home and few more of the homes on the street are valued at approximately $1 million or better. There are a lot of people financially looking for price to homes like this as well. So we don't want to just take over with a bunch of duplexes and stuff. I hope you'll take all this into consideration and not approving this development and keeping our way of life the way it is. I know you're here for the people, and the people don't want this. I hope you decide not to pass this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Invite the applicant up for rebuttal.
Jeremy Terzulli once again. So I know because we did pull the subdivision, that kind of created this whole kerfuffle, but we're not, we've pulled the subdivision explicitly for this reason, to get this feedback. So a lot of the comments here during public testimony are non-applicable to the question that is before us, which is, if the city council decides to approve annexation, is R2 the appropriate zoning designation? It aligns with the comprehensive plan, it aligns with the future land use map, it aligns with the focus area. It is a piece of property that is 1/4 of a mile from the city's major east-west commercial industrial corridor, literally 1,250 feet. If the commission thought that R1 was more appropriate and wanted to make a recommendation to council for R1, as we've pointed out, we have no problem with that either. Mr. Stoker can make both work. So a lot of the comments with regard to, 102 families, that the math doesn't check out. We would, on 48 lots, 48 residences was the one version that had the highest density of any that we were even floating around here, and they were all going to be single family, not rentals. 30 feet between structures is what I mentioned, and that is reflective on one of the subdivision versions that's out there. And again, a lot of these comments, I think, apply more to a subdivision request and not the request that's before us, which is what is the appropriate zoning designation. We're fine with R1. We think R2 is what fits the guiding documents. The adopted master transportation plan has no issue supporting traffic for R2 in this area, as well as other city infrastructure. So with that, we respectfully request R2 recommendation to City Council. And if there are any other questions, I can clear them up right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Close out the hearing, and we'll look at the review criteria. And just as a reminder, we're just looking at the zoning recommendation that will be forwarded to City Council and then they'll determine on annexation, and then at some point in the future, possibly a subdivision will come forward, but tonight is just the zoning recommendation on, that'll be forwarded to city council.
Thank you, Commissioners. Just a point of clarification, Mr. Kimball, I know there was some testimony from Whipple. You're not associated with the Whipple adjacent subdivision owners, are you? I just make sure that that was on the record in case there was any question. Thank you. All right, Echo Estates, annexation number 24-25. An R2 zone request, R1 adjacent property in the city limits. Number one, is the proposed zoning district consistent with the future land use map and the focus area contained in the currently adopted comprehensive plan?
This is the big question. So we're, as Planning Commission, we're bound to the comp plan, at least to a certain extent. And our comp plan shows this as medium-density residential. So the R2 zone is an implementing zone. The R2 zone does not allow apartments or duplexes or multifamily. It's single family.
Wait a minute, I want to ask a question. Duplexes are in R2?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, but not apartments.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the R2 zone is supposed to be used for residential development where residentially designated areas are readily serviced by collector and arterial streets. So while I would agree that this meets the land use designation in the comp plan, the R2 does, I'm not sure that Echo Drive can support it. Granted, when this project gets developed, they're going to be widening Echo, but they're only going to widen the north side, and they're not widening all the way out to McGuire nor out to Corbin, and we can't control that because those parcels aren't part of this. But boy, we're putting ourselves in a pinch.
I agree with that completely. That road there, the city will say it's the right width and stuff, but if two cars are coming, you're walking in the ditch, and there's areas where it's slanted down there. If you're having a hard time walking, you might be rolling down that if two cars are blasting by. That road, I don't think is ready for this.
What I'm seeing in the transportation plan is that it's only designated to be a local residential street, not an arterial or a collector. So it's never even going to be that width, is my concern.
I think maybe after it was developed,
But developed to local residential street.
well, things change, I mean.
Sure.
I mean, I've just seen, how many times did we see stuff when 41 was going, things got denied, and the reason was 41's not done. And then I saw even stuff when 41 was done, it still got denied.
Okay.
So.
No, good
I
point.
can see it both ways, though. It's definitely a narrow road, but do you wait for that one corner to get done?
I don't know.
And then come in, what about,
Well, I mean, the reality is that there's an existing right-of-way there, and that existing right-of-way is likely wide enough to for a widening project that, although it may not be at the full eventual width, it's enough to make it safe and safer.
Okay.
And with regards to the future land use map, and as you correctly pointed out, R2 is an implementing zone, and it's also the least dense of all of the implementing zones.
Right.
It's the least impactful. So if we're looking at our future land use map and being consistent with it, that would be the least impactful and the least dense. And then as you look at the focus area speaks to more density closer to Celti's Way, and then further, as you go further away, getting less dense. And this is also in that, I mean, one could make the argument that an R3 would be an appropriate zone here, even though it's kind of this weird wonky place in our comprehensive plan.
Right.
The fact that they're asking for R2, and that gives them the flexibility to do anything that they could do an R1 subdivision and an R2. They could do, they could do a lot of those things. And I guess that's really up to city council as to if they want to do anything. If it's up to, I mean, they're the ultimate deciding factor. But if we're going by what the zone, our code says, and our review criteria, then it does meet the future land use map and focus area as currently adopted.
Yeah, I think these hearings are tricky for me because literally you go right next, you got all this transitional stuff. So what is that going to actually be developed? Will it be developed? Who knows? But to Ray's point, you know, R2, you could do R1 in there, but you're not going to go in there and put 150 apartments either, because it's not allowed. So it does limit the density, and it is the least dense zoning you could put in that area. Anything else to add?
So it sounds like there's some debate. Obviously, whether or not annexation is or is not a good idea isn't before us as a body. The real question is the proposed district of R2 consistent with the FLOOP?
Yes.
Is my acronym.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it generally, the R2 is. The commission can always recommend something else, but it's ultimately up to the city council. So I think we've got enough debate on that issue, at least to move on to the next criteria, unless there's something else. Okay.
It's a difficult position because for the owner of the property, these are the rules they're given.
Yeah.
So the property owner, their hands are, you know, fairly well tied on what they want to become part of the city. They've got to follow the rules.
Yeah, these are the parameters that are
These are
set
the
before you.
parameters they have. I'm not usually very sympathetic to the neighboring property owners, but
You're not.
in this case where it's not someone who moved into phase 3, doesn't want phase 4, you know, these are folks that have been here for a long time. The unfortunate thing is that they live in areas that are transitional in nature, had to be that way when we wrote the comprehensive plan, and so it's kind of an unfortunate necessity, and they're caught up in it. I feel for them on that.
Yeah, and we have the comprehensive plan as this giant, you know, thing that guides the decisions, working within those frameworks and working down to the individual level. That's why we have the comprehensive plan put forth, if that needs to be changed, and we try to revise that in the future. But
Well, the guiding principle is to buffer high-intensity areas with higher density zoning. So we do that everywhere. That's kind of the guiding principle.
You're starting out with commercial or
That's what's
industrial.
guiding this entire process, is that principle. And I don't know that it's flawed. I think it's probably a good principle, so.
I appreciate the debate. Thank you, commissioners. Let's go to number 2. Is the proposed zoning district, the R2, consistent with the goals and policies contained in the currently adopted plan? There's been some goals and policies cited, but I would invite any further comment on that one. The transportation issue may be an issue if there's some goals or policies that inform on that one.
Well, how about water? Can we talk about water for a second?
You're welcome to talk about water.
Yeah. Spokesman's review. Stretches of water flow dangerously low. You can walk across the river almost down there. We always take it for granted that we have water everywhere. Today, in the Coeur d'Alene press, Emily Fitzgerald, they say, our aquifer is doing all right with the caveat that we don't know what the future holds. I mean, this might not be appropriate right now, but for generations down the road, I think in one of those meetings you said that in 20 years, it'll be 100,000 people in Post Falls. Are we setting them up for dry lands? And I know that doesn't really pertain tonight, but we always take it for granted that we've got all kinds of water for everything. We don't.
Well, it does speak to policy 72, but what I will say is that, you know, both of those articles are largely bunk. And I'm going to say that because, you know, I'm an engineer.
You can walk across the river.
Right, and about 100 yards downstream from there,
Yeah.
the aquifer is recharging the river. And above that spot, it's all just flow from the dam.
Well, I've been
And-
here 67 years, and I've never been able to walk across the river.
Well, the reality is that we're pumping less now out of the aquifer than we were 30 or 40 years ago because of all the peak flow out of the irrigation of every single one of the irrigation districts. And I know this because East Green Acres Irrigation District records show that they're pumping less now than they were 30 years ago because of all the wheel lines and all the hand lines that I used to move as a kid, and you probably did too, Bobby. Those were running 24/7 all the way through June, July, and August. And the reality is that our aquifer is fed by almost the entirety of western Montana. So our aquifer is fed through the bottom or through Lake Ponderay. So Bayview is leaking at Bayview, and it feeds our entire aquifer, and there's over 1 billion gallons a day crossing the state line today. And when our drawdown on the aquifer for every single well out there has not changed in the last 20 years. So the aquifer level has not changed. And there's evidence to that across the board. And so while I appreciate the concern, because it's a valid concern, it's just that the reality is that unlike many, many, many places in the world, we are incredibly blessed with what we have. And our aquifer is it provides high quality, high quantity water. It deserves to be protected. And, but the chicken little sky is falling argument for me falls on completely deaf ears because it's not supported by the science.
Well, our weather is changing. Like Phoenix, Arizona, they're going dry. Those rivers are drying up. That dam down in Nevada, where all that's backed up has dried up. Salt Lake City
Okay, that's,
has dried up.
yeah, but those are all, first of all, those are all,
take
most of
that
those places
offline.
you listed were dry anyhow.
I'm saying it's possible.
But I'm just saying that's not part of our
Yeah.
thing for.
I said that while I was saying this too.
Okay.
So back to reorienting, back where we need to finish tonight. Number 2, we're just trying to decide whether the proposed zoning district of R2 is consistent with our goals and policies.
I was going to say, policy 2 jumps out, and we've talked about this a lot, just the future land use map, being compatible with the surrounding areas, talking about infrastructure, traffic patterns. So I think that applies specifically to this.
Again, also policy 6, which encourages residential development patterns that feature interconnected grid networks, even though this is not a subdivision, it's set up for interconnection to the east, as well as policy 14, following annexation procedures established by Idaho statute, and policy 15, which is probably one of the most important ones here, is ensuring adequate land is available for future housing needs.
And if you get into the sub-area, we look at the West Prairie, and that's that. The policy there is mixed residential is envisioned between McGuire and Corbin, with higher densities near commercial corridors and arterials. And if you look at our land use plan, our future land use map, this property is on the north side of Echo Drive, and it's essentially serving as a buffer for the high-density residential that is proposed for the south side of Corbin, or south side of Echo, which then backs up into the commercial and industrial on Celtice. So we're trying to do that tiered buffer approach where you've got commercial, then high density, then medium density, and then into single family. And right now, the way the West Prairie sub-area is set up, we don't even have the option necessarily of R1, unless we want to go outside of the direction of the plan.
Okay, thank you, commissioners. And finally, number 3 is, does the proposed zoning district create a demonstrable adverse impact upon the delivery of services by any political subdivision providing services within the city?
And nothing's been identified. Staff report.
All right, thank you.
I think the one thing I'll add is all the comments tonight, we've definitely heard that. We have to, when we make these type of decisions, we have to kind of go what's going on the comp plan here. So if we say R1, I think, and I'm gonna speak for myself and others can chime in, you're a quarter mile away from cell Ts and you have to build in that buffer between commercial area and then as you go to residential, as we've talked about before. And I think we tried that before and it got switched over with city council. So my preference would be R2. It sounds like the developer would be open to many different types of developments, even larger houses and lots. There's definitely not any type of apartments going in here and high density stuff. But that's for another day and another conversation. Whatever recommendation we have tonight will ultimately go to city council. If they approve the annexation, at some point in the future, it'll probably come back to us as a subdivision. So this is just step one.
And there really is no decision. I just want to make it clear. Tonight, there is no decision.
Yeah, just a
All it
recommendation.
is a recommendation.
Yeah.
And council will, they have a lot more room to condition it and augment this than I think the commission does right now, when I think they're more stuck by the review criteria and being consistent to the comprehensive plan. And then,
Yeah, that's basically what I'm saying.
Yeah.
R2 fits.
I mean, I know it's not popular for everyone out there. The reality is that we are bound by state code and our comprehensive plan. And right now, we're redoing our comprehensive plan. This is the perfect time. It is the foundational document for all of our land use decisions. And so because we're redoing it right now, you folks have the chance to get in and and voice your opinion and make the change so that the comprehensive plan can change the way you want it to be, but your voice doesn't get heard unless you show up and you make your comments known. And although you're making them here tonight for this, it's not the forum that it needs to be to make that comprehensive plan change. When we have on our website, there's a whole bunch of documents out there for you to make comments on. It's open comment period right now. Please go do that. It's incredibly important.
But you don't have to make a recommendation to the city for this to be brought in at this time. You can choose not to annex it at this time.
Nope. Ma'am, that's what we're trying to say. This is a recommendation for the annexation. We're not making any decision on the annexation. The city council does that at a different time.
This is just zoning, not annexation.
It's simpler than that. If, what we're saying tonight is, if the city should decide to annex the property, we have no say in that whatsoever. If the city decides to annex the property, what's the proper zoning? And what we have to decide is the zoning they're asking for what our code dictates? It's very cut and dry, actually.
So, okay, we can't have this back and forth because we got to have everything on record, please. So. All right, with that being said, any other comments?
Well, I agree with the engineer that presented this. It would go both ways on this, and the developer did too on what he wants to build. And they said they're a little apprehensive, thinking that because this is comprehensive plan R2 area, that they might not get R1. I think we should recommend R1. And if the city council wants to go back to R2, let them. Because it's going to get annexed.
Anybody like to make a motion, or we got some more comments?
I'll make a motion.
Well, I think that the developer was worried about them just kicking it out completely if we make it an R1 and not giving them the option to do the R2. This way, if they go in with R2, and they get approved, they have that option of being able to do R1.
An R1 type product.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd say make it easy and give it to them right now.
But if if the city council says it doesn't go in align with our comprehensive plan, then
Chris,
it gets kicked out.
Just
They
a
can approve R2.
question. How would it go to recommend R2 zoning with a minimum lot size that of X, that's equivalent to R1 as a condition.
Well, I think we've made recommendations before with some guidance.
We can't really make a condition at this point, I wouldn't think, but
No, you're just basically, and the council was going to deliberate over all this again.
yeah.
They're going to look at the recommendation for R2 zoning as being consistent with the plan, or an R1 zoning as being inconsistent with a comprehensive plan, and may wonder what the reasoning is behind it. And so I will try to capture that in the reasoned decision, however the vote goes. I generally don't know that if we have some recommendations as to limiting it in an annexation agreement to an R1 type of a product or anything else, how much that will sway or influence their decision. I tend to leave that for them to work out. So, I mean, you can make the recommendation. Our goal here is just to make a recommendation as to the appropriate zoning. For anything extra, I would just consider that to be surplusage to some degree. Sorry.
So I think there's some differing opinions on this, so I think instead of going down one road and it not passing or whatever, you know, my opinion would be R2. I think others agree. I think Bobby, he can speak for himself, but I think he would like R1. But I would like to at least put the motion forward that's going to make the recommendation for the correct zone that's going to go forward and not us have it
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
I move to recommend approval of Echo Estates annexation, file number ANX 24-5.
Hang on, not approval. We're going to make
Or
a
recommendation
for a zoning.
for a zoning of R2. Thank you.
Don't want to confuse anyone.
The sample motion here is a little wonky.
Yeah, I think that's for an annexation. This
Okay,
is
it
a
is.
zoning
Okay,
recommendation.
this is zoning. Thank you. For a zoning. It's all right. Subdivision.
There's really not a right one in there for the,
The motion will be for an initial zoning recommendation of
For-
Yeah, this
X.
should be.
Okay,
simple
yeah,
as it
for an,
gets.
not
all
in
right. I move to recommend
this one is for both.
approval, or an approval of an R2 zone for Echo Estates annexation, file number ANNX 24-5, finding that the requested zoning of R2 meets the approval criteria in Post Falls Municipal Code 18.20100, as outlined in our deliberation, and direct staff to prepare a zoning recommendation to be provided to City Council.
Thank you.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor
I second.
and a second. Can we have roll call, please?
Stephenson,
Yes.
Schotthauer,
Yeah.
Schreiber,
Yes.
Wilhelm,
No?
Yes.
Kimball.
Yes.
Okay. Motion is approved, and we'll move on to City Council. Next item on the agenda, administrative staff reports.
There is no, I can wait.
They should stop it, John. This with the top.
There's no administrative staff reports.
Thank you. Any commissioner comments?
Yes, I got some comments.
Go ahead.
So I'm not exactly clear on how we do this, but I would love for staff to take a look at this HOA issue that we keep coming up with in regards to funding capital repairs and replacements, and see if there's an opportunity to put it in our subdivision code as we're
So, yeah, so,
advising and,
yeah, totally. And that is something that has already been brought up. Even I think I asked for that too. It's been come up a couple times with city council meetings too. They asked for it, so I just don't know where it is in that time. I know it was just trying to find.
I just want to put it on the record.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So that's number one. Number two, I'd like to have staff take a look at this ducks versus chickens issue.
I think they're the same.
I think that's, it's a very valid.
Duck are you talking
Not the
about?
same.
it's a
Poultry is
very valid
poultry.
Point. So I think we ought to take a look at it as a
I
city.
can't even have chickens.
Oh, I'm getting the duck out.
And I think, this may not be the right place for this, but in regards to private streets, the way our subdivision code is written right now, it's almost like it promotes them. And I think this long-term is going to be a huge liability for the city, one way or another. I'm wondering if it's appropriate to take another look at how our code addresses private streets. I know in most other cities in Kootenai County, you can't do this. Up against this in other subdivisions in Bonner County and Kootenai County, it's maybe 5 homes per private street. Everything else has to have direct access to and from public roads.
Right.
I'm just thinking long-term for the city,
Sure.
this could be a huge issue.
It's one of those weird things where, Black Rock's all private streets, right?
Yes.
They're not gonna have a problem.
Right.
And my subdivision, 33 starter homes, it's a problem.
Yep.
And that's a really hard balance and not an easy thing. And,
I agree.
And you're right, it probably does bear looking at.
Something. I'm not
Something.
sure what the right answer is, because
It's gonna
some
come
cities
back
are
to the
so
ci-
restrictive.
It's gonna come back to the same, plus and minus of cost, and it's usually done for affordable housing, and it's done to try to decrease costs and increase density, and
Right? And really what it does, just kicks the can down the road.
Chris
Yeah.
alluded to, though, we're in the process of updating our subdivision code. and
That's why I think maybe now is the appropriate time to.
He alluded that, so you'll be maybe seeing something on that as part of
Okay.
that.
And then just one final note, and again, tell me how appropriate this is, but I've done a lot of work on subdivision pro formas and cost analysis and density versus fees versus land cost, and kind of figuring out where all these things follow together. And there's so much misinformation thrown out there, and it's thrown in our faces constantly. The density equals affordability. Is there any opportunity here that we can present reality? Because density does not necessarily equate to affordability. And it's very mathematically accurate. If anything, its impact fees affect affordability. Not saying we get rid of impact fees, we need them, but
And we are looking at doing a per square foot basis on impact fees, so.
yeah, and I know we're talking
Or
about that.
tiering it, and so, I mean,
And I'm not saying we even necessarily have to address that per se, but just this constant presentation, every presentation's coming in and saying, well, we need more affordable housing, we need more affordable housing. And we're gonna do that by decreasing the lot size by 1,000 square feet. It's not gonna make any difference at all.
Yeah, and Commissioner Schreiber, I think the best venue for that, rather than getting into an open debate with people that are presenting, I mean, it's our role to listen to their
Right,
concerns.
and I don't, that's why I'm saying I don't wanna do that.
Yeah, and I can see that. It's not helpful to get into an argument with somebody presenting their opinions on something else, because this is really their 3 minutes or whatever else it is to say why they're not in favor of a proposal or anything else. I think the best time for you to present your feelings or research on things, something like that, is during the deliberations with your colleagues up there.
Okay.
And to say, I heard what Mr. Smith said about density bonuses and affordability. I would like to say to the commissioners that I'm not necessarily in favor of that because of X, Y, and Z. That's probably the best venue.
Perfect.
Rather than getting into a back and forth with public comment.
Perfect, okay.
But
No, that's
I'm
what I
open
was
to
hoping for.
suggestion.
Yep.
I just can see that as becoming so adversarial at some point that it's detracting from the debate.
Perfectly agree.
You know.
Duck out of here.
Cool.
I move to adjourn.
No.
all
One
in
more
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, meeting adjourned.